Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. The meeting is called to order. We will now consider agenda item 5, review of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific and issues pertinent to the subsidiary structure of the Economic and Social Commissions for Asia and the Pacific. The document pertaining to the overall item 5 are ESCAP/82/6 entitled Decision Taken by the Governing Council of the United Nations Special Program for the Economics of Central Asia at its 20th sessions. ESCAP/82/7 entitled Annual Reports of International and Intergovernmental Organizations provided to the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. First, to introduce this agenda item, we will begin with the presentation of the Secretariat. It is my pleasure to invite the Deputy Executive Secretary for Program, Ms. Ling Yang, to deliver her presentation. Ms. Yang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning. I have the pleasure of presenting to you the overview and the highlights of our work, together with member states, in support of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. Let me begin again, as I did last year, with the 2026 edition of Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific, which was launched on Monday in New York at the invitation of the spokesperson, and a simple set of numbers from the survey. So in 2024, our regional growth stood at 4.8%. In 2025, the growth slowed to 4.6%. In 2026, growth is projected to fall to 4%. That is before major risks materialize. As our Executive Secretary highlighted in her statement, re-escalating trade tensions, prolonged conflict in Middle East, and financial volatility could push growth even lower. Inflation has eased, but for many economies, especially net energy importers, global shocks continue to translate directly into pressure on households and businesses. And beneath these regional averages, the situation is deeply uneven. Least developed economies and countries are falling behind. Manufacturing jobs have not fully recovered in many economies. Youth unemployment remains persistently high. So the challenges before us is not simply growth, it's how to sustain stability and inclusion in an increasingly uncertain environment. This brings me to the central message emerging from both the survey and our annual SDG progress report. Our region is undergoing multiple transitions at once: economic, social, and environment. The survey asked a decisive question this year: how can the region foster socio-economic prosperity while advancing the transition to a sustainable and inclusive economy? Evidence shows that a successful transition must deliver three outcomes at once: macroeconomic stability, sustained growth, and the people's well-being. We need integrated, synergistic approaches that treat transition as a development opportunity. This message is reinforced by growing evidence that siloed responses to the triple planetary crisis are not working. When a single intervention delivers multiple benefits, the impact is significantly greater. For example, joint climate and SDG action can improve policy efficiency by nearly 40%. Encouragingly, promising examples are already emerging across the region, supported by ESCAP through regional cooperation. On the screen, I have listed a few examples of synergistic approaches. These examples point to a clear conclusion. We need solutions that generate multiple benefits simultaneously across climate, development, and resilience. The 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development, which will take place in July, presents a critical opportunity to move beyond fragmented interventions and scale up truly integrated and synergistic solutions. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, in November 2025, the Second World Summit for Social Development adopted the Doha Political Declaration. It reaffirmed 3 core pillars: poverty eradication, full employment, and social integration, while recognizing new and growing risks: climate change, digital transformation, and demographic shifts. But the gaps remain stuck. On the screen, I'm sharing the situation our region faces, supported by data. ESCAP is supporting implementation of the Doha Declaration through targeted technical tools and frameworks: Social Protection Action Plan, macro simulation modeling, Climate Resilient Inclusive Social Protection Tool, the CRISP. We also have national inclusion accounts, digital literacy tools for older persons, and the MIPA review and appraisal process 2026 to 2027. We also have youth policy toolbox to support youth-inclusive policymaking, the model framework for action on the care economy to advance gender equality and the care system. We have the Jakarta Declaration implementation tools for disability-inclusive policymaking. We have the Leaving No One Behind the platform for high quality and disaggregated data and analysis. Our task is clear: build social protection systems that protect people today while preparing societies for tomorrow. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, in 2025, Asia and the Pacific remain the world's most disaster-affected region. 2024 was the hottest year on record. Rising temperature are among the fast-growing climate hazards. There is a clear economic case here. Every $1 invested in early warning system returns more than $10 in losses averted. Just 24 hours of early warning can cut damage up to 30%. Yet gaps remain. I think in the exhibition outside, we have the booth. We can see that under the Early Warning for All initiative, Pillar 3, warning dissemination, and the Pillar 4, preparedness, is the weakest. ESCAP is responding with the concrete tools and actions, including the upgraded version of the Risk and the Resilience portal, the SetGPT, an AI-powered flood mapping tool using natural language queries, multi-donor trust fund for tsunami, disaster, and climate preparedness. We also have the Central Asia Storyboard. The goal is simple. We need to move from a warning system to action systems. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as both the survey and SDG progress report highlighted, transforming energy systems in Asia and the Pacific is essential for a just and sustainable future. While electrification is high, millions still lack access. Clean cooking remains uneven. Renewables still make up too little of our energy mix, and efficiency gains have slowed sharply. Fossil fuels continue to dominate the region's energy supply. ESCAP is working with member states on energy roadmaps, cooling plans, power system connectivity, and analytical tools for transition planning. The Asia-Pacific Energy Portal provides open data on SDG 7 indicators and the policy tracking. SDG 7 roadmap and the national cooling action plans are deployed in over 15 countries. The regional roadmap on power system connectivity are promoting green power corridors. Our research and capacity building on clean energy technologies and the resilience value chains are spreading in many countries. But the next step must to be scale up. We need decisive action on 3 fronts. Number 1, expanded cross-border power grids. Number 2, long-term energy planning with renewables at scale. Number 3, financing. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me talk about the transport. Transport is often seen as an infrastructure, but it's also social policy on wheels. Aging, care burdens, and the limited access to public transport shape who can participate in economic lives. Let me give a few numbers. For example, 41% of the urban residents lack convenient public transport access. Climate damage to transport system in our region reaches $5.5 billion a year. Women do 2 to 5 times more unpaid care work. What does this mean? This means that their travel needs are more complex and occur during off-peak times. However, in our region, only about 20 countries have national inclusive transport strategies. To support countries in addressing those challenges, ESCAP is working to develop inclusive transport indicators and guidelines, while working on the development of a sustainable urban transport index plus, which will include inclusive accessibility indicators. We are facilitating knowledge exchange on universal design, fair subsidies, and smart mobility. Universal public transport is not a cost. It's an investment in dignity, productivity, and resilience. Your Excellencies and the distinguished delegates, trade and FDI remain powerful engines of growth, but today they are not reaching everyone. According to ESCAP latest led UN Global Survey on Digital and Sustainable Trade Facilitation, implementation of trade facilitation measures remains limited, particularly for SMEs and women traders, due to limited digital capacity and financing for SMEs, as well as gender-specific barriers. To address this, ESCAP is delivering on practical solutions, including implementation support for countries for the framework agreement on facilitation of cross-border paperless trade in Asia and the Pacific, trade facilitation benchmarking tools, and AI-powered negotiation tools, regional investment promotion initiatives and targeted sustainable FDI, and the capacity building on digital FDI and the inclusive business. Digital transformation is indeed the backbone of inclusive development. Closing digital divides requires accelerated policy action on AI, digital IDs, and geospatial application. ESCAP is scaling a cross-country digital architecture support via the Asia-Pacific Information Superhighway Action Plan, and the support is tailored for high-risk regions and countries in special situations. We are also supporting the Astana Ministerial Declaration implementation on digital public services. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me share our work on data. Millions of people still lack legal identity, a critical weakness that limits access to services and rights. This is not just administrative, it's a fundamental issue of inclusion. ESCAP is supporting action through technical assistance and partnerships, capacity building for resilient civil registration and vital statistics systems, and the regional coordination mechanisms. The CRVS decade has given us a clear message. Every person must be counted, and every person must count. We must ensure that we get everyone in the picture. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, across all areas, the message is clear. We face shared risks. We must close persistent gaps. We have practical solutions, but none of this can scale without regional cooperation. The global framework adopted in 2025, the Doha Political Declaration and the Seville Commitment, give us clear direction. The task for us now is to turn global commitment into national plan, and the national plan into regional impact. Before I end, please allow me to share some key figures and the tools and the frameworks that ESCAP offers you may want to take home. Please count on our support, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Yang. Let us proceed to agenda item 5A, Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. The report of the forum is contained in document ESCAP/RFSD/2026/6 and the summary of the roundtable discussion in ESCAP/RFSD/2026/6/additional 1. We shall begin with a brief statement from the chair of the 13th Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. May I now invite the chair of the 13th Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, Her Excellency Ms. Funefutu Putuefe, Minister of Internal Affairs of Tonga, to take the floor. Over to you, Madam.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it was an honor to chair the 13th Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, held from 24 to 27 February 2026, under the theme Transformative, Equitable, Innovative, and Coordinated Action for the 2030 Agenda and its SDGs for a Sustainable Future for All. The key messages of the forum were that while the Asia-Pacific region remains a global engine of growth, it is currently not on track to achieve any of the 17 goals by 2030. Against the reality of a complex and diverse Asia-Pacific region, the significant economic and social advancements are too often shadowed by environmental degradation and persistent inequalities. The urban divide. It is a key challenge of the region. With 2.2 billion urban residents, nearly 700 million of whom still live in informal settlements, we must shift toward holistic, people-centered planning and expand social safety nets for all, especially informal workers. Social solidarity. Progress hinges on intergenerational solidarity. We must empower both youth and older persons, ensuring that all stakeholders are treated as active partners in reviewing, monitoring, and implementing the 2030 Agenda. Climate action. The backsliding of Coal 13 is a major concern. For Tonga and our Pacific neighbors, climate resilient infrastructure is a necessary first line of defense. We must accelerate community-led energy transitions and leverage nature-based solutions to safeguard our ecosystems. The forum facilitated multi-stakeholder dialogues through roundtables reviewing goals 6, 7, 9, 11, and 17. Crucially, we followed up on the Sevilla commitment adopted at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in 2025. I also wish to acknowledge the 61 side events and related events that were organized by member states, U.S. agencies, and other stakeholders, and that enriched our discussions. Moving from analysis to action requires robust tools and sustainable resources. To bridge the current gaps, we must address two critical areas. The first is data, as we are still hampered by a lack of data for nearly half of the SDG indicators. The second is finance, as we must reform the global financial architecture and innovative financing to bridge the growing resource gap. In conclusion, let me highlight that regional and sub-regional cooperation serves as our critical bridge. By fostering solidarity through our regional platforms, we can ensure that no one is left behind in our collective pursuit of a sustainable future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now open the floor for a statement. I would like to urge all speakers to adhere to the time limit of 3 minutes. Distinguished delegates, today we have 10 agenda sub-items to go through, and I will be strict with the time keeping so that we ensure we hear from all delegations. I remind all delegates that longer statement can be sent to the Secretariat and will be circulated. I count on the understanding and support from all delegations to ensure we are able to finish deliberations on time and that every delegate has a chance to speak. To request the floor, delegation may raise their country flag. The floor is open. The first speaker is Thailand, to be followed by Nepal. Distinguished delegates from Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, at the outset, I would like to thank Madam Chair of the 13th APFSD for the summary report. Thailand recognizes the important role of the APFSD as a region for a convening platform for stakeholders to share their views on the implementation of the SDGs. Achieving the SDGs is not only a national priority, but also a global responsibility requiring action at all levels. In this regard, political will is essential to turning commitments into concrete actions. Allow me to share 3 key points that are vital to achieving the SDGs. First, we need to leverage data to assess needs, track progress, identify gaps, and make informed policy and decision-making. In this regard, through the 2025 Voluntary National Review, or VNR, Thailand sought to strengthen evidence-based SDG implementation and monitoring. We appreciate ESCAP's Leave No One Behind analysis as a helpful addition to Thailand's VNR, particularly in providing disaggregated data on specific population groups. Second, we need adequate and sustained financing and investment. The UN Sustainable Development Goals Report 2025 estimates an annual SDG financing gap of $4 trillion US. Therefore, it is crucial for us to address these financing gaps through scaled-up investment and innovative sources of finance, which will help reduce inequalities and give real meaning to the principle of leaving no one behind. Lastly, partnerships should be further deepened and broadened at all levels and among all stakeholders, especially young people and the private sector, in order to mobilize resources, share knowledge, and accelerate innovation. Madam Chair, Thailand has presented our candidature to the ECOSOC for the term 2029 to 2031. We stand ready to work with all partners to ensure that sustainable development becomes a reality for people everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegates, for your statement. Now I would like to invite distinguished delegates from Nepal, followed by Lao PDR.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we meet at a critical juncture highlighted in the forum. Our region is not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Despite notable progress, this calls for urgent, transformative, and collective action. For Nepal, sustainable development remains at the core of our national policies and long-term visions. We are committed to advancing inclusive, resilient, and green development pathways guided by our national priorities and principle of leaving no one behind. Nepal has mainstreamed SDGs into its national planning and budgeting at federal to local level, 3-tier. Nepal has presented 3 volunteer national review in 17, 20, and 24. The review have served us as to assess progress, identify gaps, recalibrate priorities, and align our national development strategies with the SDGs. Based on the current pace, the country is projected to achieve about 60+% in its long-term goal by 2030. This underscores both our progress and urgent need for acceleration. Nepal has also undertaken an updated assessment of SDG financing need. The updated review of SDG need assessment costing the financing strategy has estimated that the total investment required for the achieving the defined target for the period of 24-30 is about 160 billion USD, amounting to an annual average of about 23 billion. The average SDG investment requirement reaches 45% of GDP in 2030. At least developed and landlocked and climate vulnerable country, Nepal faces compounded challenges. Climate-induced disaster, fragile ecosystems, and difficult terrains continue to affect our development trajectory. With its graduation pathway from LDC to developing countries, Nepal is losing its preferential market access, concessional financing, and special international support measures that will be posing further challenges to our national economy. Therefore, continued international partnership remains essential to ensure a smooth, sustainable, and irreversible graduation. Nepal believes that regional cooperation is indispensable. Platforms such as APFSD play a vital role in sharing knowledge, fostering partnership, and strengthening multilateral cooperation. We must work together to translate commitment to concrete action. Nepal reaffirms its strong commitment to the 2030 agenda with strengthening partnership, adequate financing, and collective resolve. We can still accelerate progress and deliver sustainable future for all. I thank you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement. Our next speaker is Lao PDR. You have the floor, followed by India.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, at the outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the ESCAP and the Chair for convening this important session, which provides a timely platform to take stock of where we stand in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and to reflect on how we can accelerate progress in the years ahead. We would like to also thank Her Excellency Fani Fotu Vitua Fe from Tonga for her summary report. The Lao PDR continues to place high priority on advancing SDGs, recognizing that the current global context calls for more effective, coordinated, and responsive approaches to the implementation. Madam Chair, this review comes at a critical juncture. While progress has been made across the region, it is evident that the implementation remains uneven, and in several areas, progress has slowed or faced setbacks. This calls for a renewed focus, not only on commitments, but also on how these commitments are translated into concrete and measurable outcomes. As noted in the previous regional discussions, including the previous APFSD held in February, persistent challenges, particularly those related to inequality, employment, and social inclusion, continue to constrain progress, especially in the developing countries and least developed countries. These challenges are further compounded by external shocks and structural limitations, underscoring the need for more resilient and adaptive development strategies. In this context, strengthening coherence across policies and sectors will be essential. Rather than approaching development in isolation, there is a need to better align efforts across economic, social, and environmental dimensions, ensuring that progress in one area supports and reinforces progress in others. As a landlocked developing country, approaching its graduation from the LDC status, the Lao PDR attaches great importance to ensuring that this transition is well managed, sustainable, and irreversible. Our national efforts are guided by the 10th Five-Year National Socio-Economic Development Plan, which prioritizes strengthening resilience, enhancing social inclusion, and advancing structural transformation towards a more self-reliant economy. Madam Chair, looking ahead, the effective implementation of 2030 Agenda will depend on stronger partnership, supported by predictable financing, enhancing capacity building, and access to appropriate technologies. In this regard, ESCAP and its subsidiary structure have an important role to play in facilitating policy dialogue, strengthening regional coordination, and supporting member states in addressing implementation challenges. Enhancing the effectiveness and responsiveness of these mechanisms will be key to better supporting countries at different stages of development. Finally, the Lao PDR remains committed to working closely and actively with ESCAP, development partners, and all stakeholders to advance practical and inclusive solutions and to ensure that the implementation of the 2030 Agenda delivers tangible benefits for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegates from Lao PDR for your statement. Our next speaker is India, to be followed by Azerbaijan. Distinguished delegates from India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. We take note of the report of the 13th Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, which was held in Bangkok, and the chair for presenting the summary report. India actively participated in the forum and contributed constructively in the deliberations. India is approaching the 2030 Agenda implementation with clarity and commitment. The Sustainable Development Goals serve as a grounding framework for policy prioritization, scheme design, and outcome monitoring at national and subnational levels in India. Through institutional mechanisms such as the SDG India Index and SDG Coordination and Acceleration Centers, progress is sustained and aligned with our long-term vision of developed India known as Viksit Bharat by 2047. Digital public infrastructure has been a defining enabler of India's sustainable development growth as it powers direct benefit transfers, financial inclusion, and transparency in service delivery. India is actively sharing these digital public goods with partner countries across the global south through various forums. Innovation and technology are central to our development strategy. At the India AI Impact Summit 2026, India has advanced a development oriented vision of artificial intelligence anchored in people, planet, and progress, emphasizing inclusive access, human capital, and AI for social good. Backed by the India AI mission and a startup ecosystem of over 100,000 enterprises, India is positioning AI as a trusted public instrument for service delivery and sustainable transformation. India also recognizes that the pathway to sustainable future lies in our collective effort, shared responsibility, and inclusive progress. We stand ready to continue our robust engagement with ESCAP in SDG implementation. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India, for your statement. Our next speaker is Azerbaijan, to be followed by Indonesia. Distinguished delegates from Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and very good morning to all colleagues. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, as we enter the final 5 years of implementation of 2030 Agenda, the international community stands at the defining moment. While the past decades has demonstrated the value of cooperation action, current global trends remind us that progress remains uneven in many areas. For Azerbaijan, sustainable development has long been a national priority. Our policies are guided by clear strategic planning, strong international institutional coordination, and commitment to inclusive growth. We are currently implementing our national development strategy for 2022-2026 while preparing the next phase under economic and social development strategy for 2027-2030. At the same time, our partnership with United Nations continue to deepen. The United Nations Azerbaijan Cooperation Framework for 2026-2030 reflect our shared commitment to the sustainable development goals with a focus on human capital, environmental sustainability, and green development pathway. Azerbaijan recognizes that digital transformation is a key driver for inclusive development. We are investing in digital infrastructure, expanding e-government services, and support innovation ecosystems. Our engagement with the voluntary national reviews process reflects this commitment. Azerbaijan has presented 4 VNRs, using them not only as a reporting tool, but as a mechanism to strengthen institutional, improve policy coherence, and enhance data-driven decision-making. We have integrated SDG priority into our national planning and public finance, introduced budget tagging, and advanced digital governance through initiatives such as ASEAN services. In addition, our recent efforts include integrating post-conflict recovery into sustainable development planning. Reconstruction in liberated territory is guided by principle of sustainability, with investment in green energy, smart infrastructure, and environmental rehabilitation. Excellencies, the global context remains challenging. Only a small share of SDG targets are currently on track, while millions continue to face poverty, food insecurity, and climate vulnerability. This reality highlights that achieving the SDG is not only a development objective, but an urgent global necessity. In this regard, Azerbaijan reaffirmed a strong commitment to advancing sustainable development through resilient economic transformation, investment in human capital, and promotion of digital and green growth. We will continue to strengthen cooperation, share our experience, and work collectively to ensure that no one is left behind. I thank you all.
Thank you, Azerbaijan, for your statement. Our next speaker is Indonesia, to be followed by Bangladesh. Distinguished delegates from Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the Asia-Pacific region continues to make progress on the SDGs. yet it remains uneven and insufficient to achieve the 2030 agenda. Challenges are becoming more complex, with climate risk, energy security, urbanization, and inequality increasingly interconnected. In this context, the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development plays an important role in reviewing progress, identifying gaps, and informing the high-level political forum. Indonesia has consistently engaged actively in the APFSD, including through its leadership role last year, where our Vice Minister served as Vice Chair on the forum, and we appreciate the continued convening on this platform. Indonesia believes this moment calls for more deliberate and structured acceleration. Financing gaps, limited fiscal space, and uneven access to technology continue to constrain delivery, particularly in infrastructure, urban development, and energy transition. Sustainable development must be fully integrated into national planning and aligned with financing and implementation framework to translate ambition into tangible results. Effort must be also reach the local level, where disparities are most evident and policies have a direct impact. In our experience, policy coherence, strong data systems, and inclusive implementation are essential to ensure that no one is left behind. Instruments such as the Voluntary National Review, supported by APFSD discussion, can strengthen accountability, peer learning, and SDGs-informed policymaking. Looking ahead, stronger regional cooperation is critically needed to address the challenges. Indonesia values the role of ESCAP and APFSD in mobilizing knowledge, partnership, and capacity building. As 2030 approach, it is also timely to begin shaping the next phase beyond 2030, with greater focus on resilience, sustainable growth, and inequality. Indonesia will continue to work with partners across the region to advance this shared agenda. I thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia, for your statement. The next speaker is Bangladesh, to be followed by Malaysia. Distinguished delegates, Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, respected Madam. Distinguished colleague, distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all. A warm greeting from Bangladesh, and I express our sincere appreciation to ESCAP for convening this important session under the timely theme, Leaving One, No One Behind, Advancing a Society for All Age in Asia and the Pacific. It is an honor to represent Bangladesh in this prestigious forum. Inclusive development remains both in moral obligation and a practical necessity for building a just, resilient, and prosperous society. The government of Bangladesh is firmly committed to advancing the sustainable development goal through a whole of society approach, ensuring that no one is left behind. Recent initiatives such as the family card for the low-income household and the farmer cards reflect our government to support vulnerable communities and strengthening social protection systems. Respected Chair, Bangladesh has made notable progress in several SDGs, including poverty reduction, education, gender equality, and access to energy. Extreme poverty has declined significantly, and nearly universal access to electricity has been achieved. However, challenges remain in areas such as healthcare, decent employment, inequality, education, urban sustainability, and governance. Madam Chair, we are prioritizing localized implementation of SDGs through our national target and strengthening international partnership, particularly in Bangladesh, prepares for in transition from the least developed countries categories. Respected Chair, in this regard, Bangladesh emphasizes several key priorities: ensuring adequate and additional climate finance for both adaptation and mitigation, strengthening cooperation and transboundary water management, reforming the international financial architecture to better serve developing countries and enhancing access to fair and inclusive global trade. Regional cooperation is critical. Platforms like ESCAP play a vital role in fostering dialogue, sharing knowledge, and building capacity. By working together, we bridge financing gap, promote innovation, and unlock opportunities in digital transformation, green energy, and resilient infrastructure. Respected Chair, a society for all age must uphold dignity, equality, and inclusion, ensuring that every individual and thrives regardless of age. Bangladesh remains steadfast in its commitment to this vision. Let us above move forward with renewed determination and collective action to achieve this sustainable and inclusive future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates from Bangladesh, for your statement. The next speaker is Malaysia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Malaysia approaches the 2030 agenda with a clear recognition. While progress has been encouraging, the final stretch toward 2030 demands acceleration, stronger coherence, and deeper partnerships. Malaysia has adopted a phased approach to SDG implementation. Phase 1 focused on institutionalization and awareness. Phase 2 strengthened monitoring system and localization efforts. Now in Phase 3, we are entering a decisive stage and acceleration phase where the emphasis is on delivering high-impact, integrated solution to close remaining gaps. A key strength of Malaysia's approach lies in strong governance and coordination mechanism. The establishment of the National SDG Center alongside a reinforced National SDG Council chaired at the highest political level has enabled a whole-of-government approach. This is complemented by clear institutional accountability through designated lead ministries and structured coordination platforms. Equally important is our progress in data and monitoring systems. Malaysia has significantly improved SDG indicator availability from just over half in 2021 to more than 80% today. We have also expanded reporting to the sub-national level, ensuring that no state or community is left behind. This reflects our commitment to evidence-based policymaking and targeted interventions. In terms of outcomes, Malaysia is projected to achieve approximately 58% of SDG targets by 2030, which places us above the current global average. However, we remain fully aware that key challenges persist. These include addressing inequality, strengthening climate resilience, improving policy coherence across sectors, and mobilizing sustainable financing. In closing, Malaysia remains committed to the 2030 agenda. We believe that through stronger regional cooperation, shared learning, and collective action, particularly within ESCAP platform, we can accelerate progress and deliver meaningful, inclusive, and sustainable outcomes for all. I thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Malaysia, for your statement. Would any other delegations like to take the floor under this agenda item? I see delegates from Turkmenistan. Over to you, Turkmenistan.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Если возможно, мне будет удобно выступить на русском языке. С момента принятия ЦУР в Туркменистане ведется системная работа по имплементации ЦУР. Адаптация и национализация глобальных задач индикаторов ЦУР к условиям Туркменистана и их интеграции в государственную политику страны. На основании постановления президента Туркменистана в 2017 году создан национальный координационный механизм для обеспечения всестороннего учета национальных реалий и приоритетов в процессе осуществления повестки дня 2030, а также в целях учета комплексного и неделимого характера ЦУР и обеспечения сбалансированности всех трех компонентов устойчивого развития экономического, социального и экологического. Вместе с тем, на 1 февраля 2026 года из принятых 175 индикаторов ЦУР более 20 на сегодняшний день не разрабатываются. На сегодняшний день по анализу экспертов, которая была сделана в 2022 году, комплексному анализу, 85% задач, которые были приняты Туркменистаном, они отражены в наших национальных задачах, стратегиях. Что касается опыта добровольного национального обзора, Туркменистан дважды представлял свой добровольный национальный обзор. Если в 2019 году были включены 6 целей устойчивого развития, помимо кластерных мы еще взяли цель номер 3, потому что в Туркменистане делается очень много в сфере здравоохранения, то в 2023 году, когда представлял свой второй добровольный национальный обзор, в него были включены уже 11 целей устойчивого развития. То есть это больше 5 целей, помимо кластерных. Также правительством Туркменистана идет комплексная работа по предоставлению добровольного национального обзора 3 в 2027 году на политическом форуме высокого уровня в Нью-Йорке. Также отрадно заметить, что Туркменистан делает все для адаптации цели устойчивого развития в своей национальной программы. То есть цель устойчивого развития мы видим как основная программа, на которую мы опираемся при написании долгосрочных, среднесрочных и краткосрочных стратегий и программ. В то же время сохраняются пробелы и выявлены риски для устойчивого развития. В этой связи Туркменистан намерен продолжить осуществлять мероприятия, направленные на обеспечение устойчивости роста в 3 измерениях – экономическом, социальном и экологическом. Буквально, госпожа председатель, если еще мне дадите 30 секунд, я хочу пару шагов дальнейших, которые Туркменистан думает осуществлять. Это развитие промышленного потенциала на новой технологической базе и формирование межотраслевых цепочек производства конечной продукции с высоким мультипликатором добавленной стоимости. Также это формирование комплексного институциональных условий и развитой современной инфраструктуры для развития бизнеса, в том числе малого и среднего предпринимательства. Обеспечение демографической безопасности и укрепление института семьи, усиление охраны материнства и детства. Создание условий для здоровья и продолжительной жизни человека. Повышение качества и доступности медицинской помощи с акцентом на профилактику и раннюю диагностику заболеваний для всех граждан. Также это устойчивый рост доходов населения путем обеспечения достойной оплаты труда, повышения социальных стандартов жизни для граждан. И также есть основные задачи экологического направленности. Одной из основных – это сохранение естественных экологических систем, биологического и ландшафтного разнообразия, обеспечение нулевого баланса деградации земель. В своем выступлении, в конце выступления я хочу сказать, что Туркменистан привержен выполнению всех обязательств, взятых в рамках цели устойчивого развития. И также Туркменистан благодарит ESCAP за прекрасное прохождение 82-й сессии. Спасибо за внимание. Извините, что я вышел с регламента.
Thank you, Turkmenistan, for your statement. Distinguished delegates from Tajikistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen, Tajikistan has committed to implement the SDGs and has integrated them into its national development strategy. Tajikistan aligned the SDGs with its strategic goals and national development strategy 2030, adapting global goals to national priorities such as ensuring energy independence, providing food security, breaking the communication deadlock, and accelerating industrialization. Our focus lies in improving connectivity, particularly in the areas of transport and energy infrastructure, and in expanding sub-regional and regional trade, as these are crucial for achievement of our collective development. Recognizing that infrastructure is the backbone of development, Tajikistan has prioritized modernization of transport, communication, and industrial capacity. Significant investment in roads, tunnels, and regional transport corridors have improved connectivity within the country and strengthened trade links across Central Asia. Partnership remains the cornerstone of our progress. Tajikistan actively cooperates with United Nations agencies, international financial institutions, regional organizations, and bilateral partners. Tajikistan has long been leader in advancing sustainable water management, driven by our abundant fresh water resources. We have actively promoted international water initiatives and championed efforts to achieve Sustainable Development Goals 6. Despite our commitment, significant financial investments are needed to meet water-related goals. Through our leadership in the International Decade for Action, Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028, the Dushanbe Water Process, and as a host for the 2028 UN Water Conference, Tajikistan remains dedicated to advocate for increased global financial support to bridge the financing gap and achieve SDG 6 effectively. As a co-facilitator of UNGA Resolution International Water Action Decade and host of the fourth high-level international conference on the International Decade for Action, Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028, to be held on 25th, 28th of May 2026, and for implementation, Commission Resolution 81/3 on the sideline of fourth Dushanbe Conference. Tajikistan also hosts the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting for the 2026 UN Water Conference on 25th of May 2026 in Dushanbe. We would like to invite you all to Dushanbe to participate in these upcoming important events and to continue close cooperation on accelerating of achievement of SDGs with the partners and stakeholders at the regional and international levels. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Tajikistan, for your statement. Would any other delegation like to take the floor under this agenda item? I see none. We shall now take up agenda item 5B pertaining to social development. May I first invite the officer in charge of the Social Development Divisions, Ms. Katinka Wenberger, to briefly introduce the documents pertaining to this agenda item. Ms. Wenberger, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning, distinguished delegates. It is my honor to introduce two documents pertinent to agenda item 5B on social development. Document ESCAP 82/8 contains the report of the Working Group on the Asian Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2023 to 2032 on its first session. The Working Group reviewed progress made since the adoption of the Jakarta Declaration on the Asia-Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, in particular in respect to the economic inclusion of persons with disabilities, accessibility, assistive technology, and disability data. The Working Group also adopted a set of strategic recommendations to leverage the leadership and support of organizations of persons with disabilities, engage the private sector, advance disability-inclusive digitalization, use innovative technologies, promote data-driven policymaking and monitoring, and increase domestic budget allocations and innovative financing to accelerate the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration. The Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific may wish to consider this report of the Working Group with a view to providing guidance to the Secretariat on the further implementation of the Jakarta Declaration. The second document, document ESCAP/82/9, is on the regional follow-up to the outcomes of the Second World Summit for Social Development held in Doha from November 4 to 6 in 2025. This document highlights the key outcomes of the Second World Summit for Social Development that are of particular significance for the Asia-Pacific region. The document explores the complementarities between the outcomes of the summit and the existing global and regional frameworks and mandates on social development. And furthermore, it proposes actions that could be taken within existing mandates and resources to support the implementation of the outcomes across the Asia-Pacific region. The Commission may wish to consider the findings contained in this document and provide further guidance to the Secretariat on the support required by members and associate members for the effective implementation of the Doha Political Declaration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wenberger. Now, I open the floor for statements. I take all speakers to adhere to the time limit of 3 minutes. The first speaker is Philippine. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The Philippines welcomes the report of the Working Group on the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2023 to 2032 and commends the Working Group for its substantive deliberations on economic inclusion, accessibility, and disability data, pillars that are central to realizing the commitments of the Jakarta Declaration. The Philippines particularly values the Working Group's call for strengthened disability data systems, expanded economic participation, and the meaningful involvement of persons with disabilities and their organizations in all stages of policymaking. These priorities resonate strongly with our own national experience and ongoing efforts. On disability data and evidence, the Philippines has invested progressively in building an integrated national data ecosystem on disability. We were among the first countries in the region to adopt the WHO World Bank Model Disability Survey, conducting the National Disability Prevalence Survey as early as 2016. In the 2020 Census of Population and Housing, the Philippine Statistics Authority integrated the Washington Group Questions on Functioning, which identified 8.47 million persons, or 8.7% of the household population aged 5 years and above, as experiencing at least one functional difficulty. At the same time, addressing this gap remains a priority as part of our broader commitment to evidence-based policy making and course correction. At the UN in New York, the Philippines co-facilitates with Tanzania the biennial resolution Inclusive Development for and with Persons with Disabilities that requested the UN to do a study and publish the UN flagship report on disability and development, which tracked the achievement of the SDGs from the disabilities lens. On the legal and institutional framework, the Philippines has established a comprehensive architecture for advancing disability rights. The Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities, as amended, serves as the cornerstone of this framework, guaranteeing rights, privileges, and protections, including equal opportunities in employment and access to adequate health services. Our efforts to elevate their quality of life and ensure their inclusion do not stop here, as the country's National Council on Disability Affairs reinforces this by coordinating policy across 12 subcommittees spanning employment, health, education, accessibility, and ICT, among others. At the local level, we have instituted Persons with Disability Affairs offices that provide a vital institutional frontline presence, ensuring that services are delivered effectively and that advocacy efforts are sustained within communities. Madam Chair, in closing, the Philippines reaffirms its commitment to the full and effective implementation of the Jakarta Declaration and the ASEAN and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2023 to 2032. We will continue to work with ESCAP member states, organizations of persons with disabilities, and stakeholders to advance disability inclusive development, ensuring that persons with disabilities are recognized not only as right holders and beneficiaries of protection, but fully empowered as active contributions to our societies and economies in the region and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippine, for your statement. The next speaker is distinguished delegates from India, to be followed by Thailand. Distinguished delegates, India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We take note of the reports presented to the Commission under this agenda. India is guided by the vision of developing together and leaving no one behind. In line with the spirit, India has made sustained progress in tackling multidimensional poverty and malnutrition, universal health care, and has successfully used digital public infrastructure for transformative changes in people's lives. India has aligned itself with global best practices while offering unique solutions that can serve as models for other developing countries. India's flagship program of linking digital identities, zero balance bank accounts, and mobile telephony has delivered banking and insurance to unbanked population and achieving financial inclusion, especially for women, persons with disabilities, and the elderly. Guided by the vision of women-led development, India has witnessed a paradigm shift as how public services are designed and delivered, keeping women at the center. Large-scale programs on digital and financial literacy, including in rural areas, have benefited many, especially women entrepreneurs. India is moving ahead with saturation in social protection to ensure last mile delivery of all essential services to the poorest of the poor, be it food and nutrition, health, quality education, infrastructure, energy, and skilling. Dedicated efforts targeting delivery of early childhood care, nutrition, and education have led to sustained protection for children, adults and girls, women in reproductive age, elderly, who have consistently received social protection cover through their life cycle. India's rights-based approach to universal health coverage, including reproductive health, has been catalytic, especially for empowering women. The cornerstone of India's strategy to empower the persons with disabilities is through the implementation of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016. The Act aligns with the principles of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and ensures access to inclusive education, vocational training, employment, recognizing them as active contributors to national progress. India has established a comprehensive framework to secure equal employment opportunity for persons with disabilities. There are dedicated programs that aim to expand access to quality aids and assistive devices, barrier-free access, and enhance market-linked skilling opportunities, focusing on improving employability and workplace productivity. India is also strengthening disability disaggregated data to improve targeting and monitoring of disability inclusive policies. India remains committed to advancing disability inclusive development in line with CRPD and looks forward to continuing regional cooperation through ESCAP by sharing knowledge and best practices. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India, for your statement. The next speaker is Thailand, to be followed by Azerbaijan. Distinguished delegates from Thailand, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, Thailand reaffirms its support for the Doha Political Declaration and the importance of turning shared commitments into inclusive action at the national level. Under the 13th National Economic and Social Development Plan, Thailand takes a whole of government approach to advance poverty eradication, decent work, and social inclusion, contributing directly to SDGs. On poverty reduction, Thailand uses the state welfare card and the Thai People Map and Analytics platform to identify and assist vulnerable households. The government is speeding up welfare disbursement to reach those in vulnerable situations. Community-based volunteers and local networks ensure that assistance reaches those most in need. Thailand remains committed to ending intergenerational poverty by 2027. On recent work, Thailand is investing in future-ready skills and vocational training, alongside support for rural livelihoods and small and medium enterprises. Thailand is also expanding eligibility for persons with disabilities to ensure more inclusive access to employment support, while protecting vulnerable populations from online scams. On social inclusion, universal health coverage and community-level care ensures equitable access to essential services across the country. Thailand further promotes gender equality in all dimensions, such as legal reform to legally recognize marriage for all. Madam Chair, we encourage ESCAP to support member states through capacity building and alignment of national efforts with the Doha Political Declaration. Thailand remains committed to turning this declaration into results through regional cooperation under the Action Plan on Social Protection in Asia and the Pacific, the Madrid Plan of Action on Aging, and the Jakarta Declaration on the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities for the well-being of all. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you, Thailand, for your statement. The next speaker is Azerbaijan, to be followed by Bangladesh. Distinguished delegates from Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Azerbaijan aligned itself with this conclusion presented under this agenda item, particularly the emphasis on life course approach on social protection and inclusive development. We share the view that promoting active and healthy aging, ensuring comprehensive social protection, advancing gender equality, and strengthening intergenerational solidarity are essential priority in today's global context. We also appreciate the report's recognition of the strong interlinkage between demographic trends, climate change, and labor market transformation. In Azerbaijan, these interconnected challenges are addressed through integrated and forward-looking policies, ensuring coherence across all relevant sectors. Our national approach places people at the center of policy. We believe that investing in human capital is a foundation for long-term prosperity, resilience, and social stability. Guided by life course perspective, our policies support individuals at every stage of life, from empowering youth through education, employment, ensuring dignity and quality of life for older persons. Like many countries, Azerbaijan is experiencing population aging. We are adapting our system accordingly by strengthening pension schemes, expanding access to care services, and promoting active aging while continuing to invest in the future generation. Over the past years, Azerbaijan has implemented a large-scale social reforms covering millions of citizens, leading to significant increase in wages, pensions, and social benefits. At the same time, digital transformation has become a key driver of efficiency and accessibility, with a vast majority of social service now delivering electronically. We remain committed to building an inclusive society with particular attention to vulnerable groups and to development of dynamic labor markets through job creation, skills development, and formalization of employment. Finally, Azerbaijan actively supports the transition to a green economy. We are aligning our workforce development with the growing demand for green and digital skills, ensuring that readiness for future of work. In conclusion, Azerbaijan stands ready to continue sharing its experience and continue to our collective efforts in addressing global social economic challenges. I thank you all.
Thank you, Azerbaijan, for your statement. Distinguished delegates from Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. I express sincere appreciation to ESCAP for organizing the 82nd session under the very timely and compelling theme, leaving no one behind, advancing a society for all ages in Asia and the Pacific. Bangladesh reaffirms its steadfast commitment to inclusive, equitable, and sustainable social development. Madam Chair, Bangladesh has adopted a life cycle approach to social protection and recognizes elderly as golden citizens. In 2025-26 fiscal year, we have expanded old age allowance to cover 6.1 million senior citizens with a budget of 479.1 million Bangladeshi taka and provided specialized care through 8 old homes across the country. Bangladesh enacted Parents Care Act to ensure social and emotional security within families. Our digital database uniquely identifies over 3.6 million persons with disabilities, ensuring they receive targeted services, education, stipends, and technical training. Implementing civil registration and vital statistics system for inclusive development and social justice. We have been implementing dedicated programs for marginalized communities, including transgender, riverine gypsy, and tea garden workers. Moreover, nearly 2.9 million widows and deserted women are achieving social security. We extended a providing life vital financial aid to 60,000 patients annually suffering from chronic illness like cancer, kidney, and liver diseases. Currently, government launched a universal family card, a transformative digital social safety net, and farmers card to protect and support the marginalized farmers. Government implemented a government-to-person payment system by electronic fund transfer, ensuring 100% of beneficiaries receive their allowances, different safety net programs directly into their mobile wallets or bank accounts. For children, Bangladesh made significant progress in expanding access to education, reducing child marriage, and strengthening the child protection mechanism, community-based child protection system, including facilitation of national helplines on child protection. We have also been supporting more than 12,000 Rohingya children living in the refugee camps. For youth, including adolescent girls and young women, we are investing in skill development, digital literacy, and economic empowerment initiatives. Gender responsive budgeting, access to education, and target oriented social safety net programs have enhanced women's participation in labor force and decision making process. Strengthen law addressing violence against women and children, expanded one-stop crisis center, and improved coordination among ministries to ensure holistic support system. Madam Chair, Bangladesh fosters healthier, more equitable society by investing in inclusive sports and expanding sports infrastructure. Regional cooperation is crucially essential. We call upon ESCAP member states to collaborate in financial, on social protection, and share technological expertise to make digital social services more accessible to the elderly and the persons with disabilities. We must share knowledge, scale up best practices, policy guidance, and invest in data system that capture age and gender disaggregated information. Evidence-based policy making will ensure that no age group is invisible in national planning. I thank you all.
Thank you, Bangladesh, for your statement. Would any other delegations like to take the floor under this agenda item? May I call now on the representative of IOM to take the floor. ILO to take the floor.
Madam Chair, distinguished guests, excellencies, I begin by recognizing the strong and trusted partnership between the International Labour Organization and ESCAP. This collaboration has been central to advancing a shared vision for social development in the Asia and the Pacific through joint research, engagement at the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, and our contributions around the Second World Summit for Social Development. Indeed, our joint side event at the Second World Summit for Social Development in Doha in 2025 clearly showed how Asia-Pacific leadership can advance inclusive social development through stronger social protection, decent work, social justice, and intergenerational solidarity. But the reality we face today calls for stronger, more urgent collective action. With 2/3 of workers in informal employment, livelihoods across Asia and the Pacific remain fragile and insecure. And with 1 in 5 young people shut out of both jobs and education, particularly young women, the region risks leaving an entire generation behind. With social protection systems still reaching just over half the population, hundreds of millions, especially those in informal work, remain without a safety net, exposed to shocks that can quickly push them into poverty. And all this is unfolding in a region undergoing rapid demographic change. The number of older persons will nearly double to around 1 billion by 2050, placing new demands on labor markets, care systems, and income security. These are not isolated challenges. They are deeply interconnected. And if left unaddressed, they risk widening inequalities across generations. But there's also a powerful opportunity, an opportunity to invest in people through the universal social protection systems that provide security across the life course, an opportunity to create better jobs by supporting formalization and inclusive labor markets, and an opportunity to build the care economy as both a social necessity and a driver of employment. This is why partnership matters more than ever. No country, no institution can tackle these challenges alone. Improving people's livelihoods requires coordinated action, aligning labor, social, and economic policies, and working together across the region. Our partnership with ESCAP highlights the power of working together. Now, the task ahead is to scale up our efforts, strengthen collaboration, and translate shared commitments into meaningful impact for people across the region. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative from ILO, for your statement. Would any other delegates like to take the floor under this agenda item? I see none. We shall now take up agenda item 5C on environment and development. May I first invite the Director of the Social Development Divisions, Mr. Sang-Min Nam, to briefly introduce the document pertaining to this agenda item. Mr. Nam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies and distinguished delegate, it is my honor to introduce documents pertaining to item 5C on environment and development. Document ESCAP/82/11 on regional cooperation for synergistic solutions to environment and development challenges provide an overview of a regional context of a triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity, and pollution, which are increasingly complex, interlinked, and transboundary in nature, thereby requiring more integrated and synergistic approach solutions. In this regard, the document outlines how integrated and synergistic approaches can be advanced across 4 interrelated areas, including integrated climate action, clean air and climate action, nature-based solutions, and sustainable urban development. In addressing the multiple priorities simultaneously and effectively, strengthen regional collaboration for advancing synergistic solutions is essential. Regional cooperation can help countries overcome capacity gaps, reduce duplications, harmonize policies, scale solutions faster, and lower the cost of action. The diversity of Asia-Pacific region can be a great foundation for promoting context-specific synergies and enabling countries to learn from one another. The Secretariat on the sub-program for currently facilitates regional platforms initiatives on air pollution, green growth, ocean-based climate action, and SDG localization, which promote synergistic solutions and leverage complementarity needs between countries. The Secretariat plans to further facilitate dialogue on regional cooperation for synergistic solutions during the forthcoming session of the Committee on Environment and Development to be held at the ministerial level from 1st to 3rd July. In this regard, the Commission is requested to provide guidance to the Secretariat on how it can support Member States in promoting synergistic solutions. The Commission is also requested to share policy perspectives and experiences on synergistic solutions and initiatives for multilateral and regional cooperation. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nam. May I now ask the conference room officer to play the video message from the chair of the 21st session of the Governing Council of the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanizations, Mr. Badril Hisham bin Abu Bakar, Deputy Director of the Agricultural Research and Development Institute of Malaysia.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as the chair of the 21st session of the Governing Council of the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, or CSAM, I am honored to brief you on the meeting which was attended by all 9 Governing Council members, namely China, India, Malaysia, Mongolia, Philippines, Republic of Korea, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. Representatives from Cambodia and Lao People's Democratic Republic also attended the session as observers. The Council reviewed CSAM's work in 2025 and commended the Center for its achievements and many relevant activities. It recommended that the Center continue its effective work in the following: promoting harmonization of agricultural machinery testing procedures, facilitating policy dialogue, networking, and knowledge sharing among member states, advancing climate-smart mechanization and integrated straw management, strengthening regional trade, investment, and technology transfer, and enhancing capacity-building activities in sustainable agricultural mechanization. Areas recommended for focus in 2026 include promoting innovation for food system transformation, including testing of emerging technologies, strengthening cooperation among agricultural engineers and mechanization societies, supporting post-harvest mechanization, industry and manufacturing capacity building, mapping and demonstrating effective agricultural machinery technologies, developing policy briefs, and improving measurement of mechanization indicators. The Council endorsed CSAM's 2025 work report and financial status report, as well as its 2026 work plan. On behalf of the Council, I would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to Member States for their contributions to CSAM, particularly to the host country China for its generous voluntary financial support and for providing the Center's premises. The Council recognized the importance of promoting sustainable agricultural mechanization in highlighting the importance of supporting the adoption of new technologies through addressing the digital gap of some developing countries or remote regions, and recommended that the Center serve as a platform for sharing leading technologies and investments. I urge all ESCAP members and associate members to support the important work of CSAM. Thank you.
Thank you. I now open the floor for statement. I ask all speakers to adhere to the time limits of 3 minutes. Distinguished delegates from Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Concerning the document titled Regional Cooperation for Synergistic Solution to Environment and Development Challenges, as reflected in the meeting documentation and in accordance with Union Resolution 7/5, Japan looks forward to continued efforts to support member states in advancing integrated and synergistic approaches and actions. Addressing the triple planetary crisis requires integrated, cross-sectoral and synergistic approaches. To promote concrete actions, the government of Japan, in collaboration with ESCAP and ADB, is preparing the Asia-Pacific Synergy Report, which is scheduled to be launched in June this year. The report introduced and analyzes good practices from across the Asia-Pacific region that simultaneously address climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, while contributing to the achievement of the SDGs, and includes an examination of key success factors and remaining challenges. We expect that the insight and lessons contained in the report will be utilized by the ESCAP Secretariat to support member states, including by facilitating the sharing of experience on synergistic solutions and promoting regional cooperation. We also would like to highlight that Japan has been serving as a co-chair of Interactive Dialogue C, IDC, of the 2026 UN Water Conference. The 7 themes of IDC, Water for the Planet, agreed upon by UN member states, namely climate, biodiversity, desertification, environment, from source to sea, resilience, and disaster risk reduction, are deeply interconnected and critical for future of water. Therefore, we will address the 7 themes in a balanced and holistic manner, closely taking into account the views of member states and stakeholders, and facilitate participatory and inclusive discussion so that they will lead to further commitment and effective actions. This will generate new synergy and dynamism, injecting new enthusiasms, actions, and resources, particularly those out of water box, into the water sector. In addressing water for planet, let me stress the importance of considering the water cycle as a whole, governing too much water, too little water, and normal water in an integrated manner with help of, for example, skilled facilitators who can bridge the gap between science and policy makers. Let me also emphasize the importance of narratives that will inspire decision makers and stakeholders to galvanize their actions. Japan will work to identify such effective and responsible solutions through the series of processes leading up to the 2026 UN Water Conference. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Japan, for your statement. Our next speaker is Maldives, to be followed by Nepal. Distinguished delegate from Maldives, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to take the floor under this agenda item. I wish to thank ESCAP for its continued efforts in advancing the environment and development agenda across our region and for the close engagement with the Maldives. Climate change is among the most urgent threats facing the Maldives. As one of the lowest lying countries in the world, with more than 80% of our islands less than 1 meter above mean sea level, the Maldives is highly vulnerable to rising sea levels and coastal storm surges. In recent years, many inhabited islands have faced extreme weather events, including strong winds and flooding, which have contributed to severe beach erosion and damage to coastal infrastructure. Climate change will also have a cascading impact on key economic sectors, including tourism, fisheries, and agriculture. Climate action in the Maldives, encompassing integrated mitigation and adaptation efforts to contribute to global climate ambitions and to reduce vulnerability, are therefore crucial. In light of this, the government of Maldives has set an ambitious goal of generating 33% of the country's energy needs from renewable sources by 2028 and has prioritized strategies to achieve mitigation and adaptation goals through the Maldives NDC 3.0. Marine and coastal ecosystems are crucial to climate action in the Maldives. We have two of the largest natural atolls in the world, and we are home to 180 different species of coral and 15 species of mangroves. Blue carbon ecosystems like mangroves and seagrass are gaining increased attention in recognition of their role in climate mitigation, benefiting coastal protection and livelihoods, and enhancing species diversity and resilience. Loss of these vital ecosystems risks heightening the vulnerability of small island developing states like the Maldives to climate-induced disasters. To leverage these ecosystems in advancing climate action, the Maldives has outlined a series of strategic measures in its nationally determined contributions. However, addressing financial challenges is key to unlocking the potential of blue carbon ecosystems for climate mitigation, protection of ecosystem services, and sustainable development. Realizing this potential requires investment in conservation, monitoring, and capacity building. In support of the national priority accorded to marine and coastal ecosystems, ESCAP has worked closely with our Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy, as well as the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises to strengthen national capacities to leverage the potential of blue carbon and mobilizing related financing. This support has included 2 in-country workshops convened in 2025, policy advice in the form of a report for enabling blue carbon finance, and development of a proposed roadmap for blue carbon financing in the Maldives. The Maldives looks forward to further strengthening our partnership with ESCAP and other development partners. We underscore the importance of continued support for nature-based solutions and climate action, including blue carbon ecosystems, as well as improved access to climate and conservation finance for small island developing states. Maldives remains committed to working with all partners to build a more resilient, sustainable, and secure future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maldives, for your statement. The next speaker is Nepal, to be followed by Thailand. Distinguished delegates from Nepal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, and distinguished delegates. First of all, we would like to thank the Secretariat for the comprehensive documentation presented under this agenda item, including the summary of regional efforts to strengthen environmental resilience and cooperation. The Himalayas, home to Mount Everest and thousands of glaciers, serves as a global climate stabilizer and a vital freshwater tower. These mountains feed major river systems that sustain hundreds of millions of people downstream for drinking water, agriculture, hydropower, and ecosystem services. Yet, this lifeline is under severe threat. Scientific assessment indicate that in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, up to 2/3 of glacier volume could be lost by the end of this century under current emissions pathways. Rapid glacier retreat, coupled with increasing risk of glacial lake outburst floods, poses existential threats to water security, livelihoods, and regional stability. These fragile mountain ecosystems must therefore be recognized as a global public good, requiring urgent international protections and sustained investment. Nepal contributes negligibly to global greenhouse gas emissions, yet we face disproportionate impact, erratic monsoons, devastating floods, prolonged droughts, and cascading risk to agriculture and hydropower. This climate injustice forces us to divert scarce natural resources from development priorities toward adaptations and disaster response. Nepal has taken proactive steps to elevate the global discourse on mountains and climate change. The first Sagarmatha Samvad, held in Kathmandu in May 2025, brought together global leaders under the theme Climate Change, Mountains, and the Future of Humanity. We also commend ESCAP's collaborations with International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe, and International Union for Conservation of Nature in advancing science-based regional cooperation through the 2025 workshop on water and climate resilience in Hindu Kush, Himalayas. Furthermore, we appreciate ESCAP support to the special event Sagarmatha to the Sea, which was organized during the APFST, which highlighted the interconnected impact of vanishing glaciers and rising sea levels across the region. We believe that strengthened regional cooperation, enhanced climate finance, and greater recognitions of mountain ecosystems in global climate framework. The future of the Himalayas is inseparable from the future of humanity. Protecting them is not only a regional responsibility, it is a global imperative. Thank you.
Thank you, Nepal, for your statement. The next speaker is Thailand, to be followed by Republic of Korea. Distinguished delegates from Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We thank the Secretariat for presenting the reports on this agenda item. Thailand believes that ESCAP has an important role to play in ensuring that economic growth is balanced with environmental protection and the well-being of our people in the Asia and the Pacific, particularly to support its members in translating global commitments to regional and sub-regional action. This work should be guided by strong policy coherence, cross-sectoral approaches, and inclusive stakeholder participation. There is already good work being done by ESCAP in this regard. As an example, we wish to highlight the collaborative and cross-cutting efforts between ESCAP, UNEP, OHCHR, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations towards the adoption of the ASEAN Declaration on the Right to a Safe, Clean, Healthy, and Sustainable Environment in 2025, which has been championed by Thailand's representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. This reinforces the General Assembly resolution on the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment at the regional level. Thailand also underscores the need for strengthened regional cooperation on environment, particularly in data sharing, science and technology, and capacity building, in light of the urgent challenge that countries in our region are facing on transboundary pollution, such as the heavy metal contamination in shared rivers, which pose serious risk to ecosystems, food security, and public health. In relation to this, Thailand looks forward to constructively participating in the preparatory process towards the upcoming 9th session of the Committee on Environment and Development, which will be a key opportunity to renew regional commitments to strengthen such efforts. In closing, Thailand reaffirms its readiness to work with ESCAP, fellow ESCAP members, and relevant partners to strengthen regional cooperation on environment and development, and to promote inclusive and sustainable development that leaves no one behind. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Thailand, for your statement. The next speaker is Republic of Korea, to be followed by Azerbaijan. Distinguished delegates from Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea expresses its thanks to the Secretariat for the presentation and report and commends its continued efforts in the area of environment and development. The Republic of Korea also takes note of the challenges facing the Asia-Pacific region in the area of this environment and development, as presented in the report 82/11. We believe that regional cooperation and partnerships are more important than ever, and stand ready to cooperate with ESCAP to advance the Sustainable Development Goals in the area. Let me briefly highlight the Republic of Korea's efforts and contributions in this regard. On green growth, the Republic of Korea has supported member states over the past 2 decades through the Seoul Initiative Network on Green Growth, or SING, which has served as a meaningful platform for policy exchange and practical cooperation. This year, we are pleased to launch SING Phase 5, covering the period from 2026 to 2030, with a focus on strengthening readiness, capacity, and investment for the green transition. On clean air, The Republic of Korea has supported the implementation of the Regional Action Program on Air Pollution by hosting capacity building workshops and co-organizing the annual event for the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies with a view to enhancing regional cooperation and awareness. Lastly, on ocean sustainability and climate action, the Republic of Korea, as co-host of the 2028 UN Ocean Conference with Chile, is pleased to support ocean-based climate action through an ROK ESCAP Trust Fund project. We hope this contribution will help advance regional efforts in this important area. In closing, the Republic of Korea will continue to work closely with the Secretariat member states and partners to advance the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals across the Asia-Pacific region. I thank you.
Thank you, Republic of Korea, for your statement. The next speaker is Azerbaijan, to be followed by Vietnam. Distinguished delegates from Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The Republic of Azerbaijan regards ESCAP as an important platform for strengthening regional cooperation in addressing environmental and development challenges. Under the National Framework Azerbaijan 2030 National Priority for Social-Economic Development adopted in 2021, Azerbaijan has identified clean environment and green growth as one of the key priorities. This is closely aligned with SDGs particular goals 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Azerbaijan is implementing practical measures in this direction, including expanding renewable energy, increasing green areas, strengthening environmental monitoring, and protecting biodiversity. On the eve of COP13, Azerbaijan submitted its updated National Determined Contribution, NDS, setting a target to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 40% by 2035 compared to 1990s level. The liberated territories have also been designated as a net zero emission zone by 2025. In November 2024, during COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan submitted its National Adaptation Plan and its first biennial transparency report, demonstrating its commitment to Paris Agreement and broader international framework. Distinguished delegates, Azerbaijan aims to increase the share renewable energy by 30% by 2030, with a focus on solar and wind energy. Green energy zones are being developed, particularly in the liberated territories, as a pilot areas for sustainable development. At the same time, efforts are being strengthened in energy efficiency, waste reduction, recycling, and promoting a circular economy. Measures to improve water management, enhancing climate resilience, and protecting biodiversity are also being expanded alongside a forestation initiative. Azerbaijan also continued its effort to improve the ecological condition of the Caspian Sea. In conclusion, Azerbaijan remained committed to working with partners under ESCAP to advance sustainable development and address shared environmental challenges. Thank you all.
Thank you, Azerbaijan, for your statement. The next speaker is Vietnam, to be followed by India. Distinguished delegates from Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. Vietnam shares a common concern that the Asia-Pacific region is facing the increasingly serious environmental and climate change challenge. Strong storm, prolonged drought, flood, sea level rise, saltwater intrusion, air and water pollution, plastic waste, and biodiversity loss are exerting significant pressure on economic growth, food security, public health, and the livelihood of millions of people. As one of the countries most severely affected by climate change, Vietnam is experiencing increasingly evident impact with its vulnerable geography, particularly in the coastal lowland sea level rise, and the saltwater intrusion directly threatening the people's lives and sustainable development goals, especially in the Mekong Delta. Responding to the climate change is one of Vietnam's top priorities. Vietnam has updated its national adaptation plan for the 2021 and 2030 period with a vision to 2050, aiming to reduce vulnerability and risk from the adverse impact of the climate change by enhancing the resilient and adaptive capacity of natural, economic, and social systems, while minimizing loss and damage caused by climate change. This plan also contributes to the efficient use of resources, strengthen financial and technical coordination, avoid overlaps, and promote the participation of community, business, and international partners. Madam Chair, in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, Vietnam placed particular emphasis on addressing environmental challenges. We have issued comprehensive system of laws, strategies, and policy on environmental protection and climate change while integrating environmental factors into development program and plan in both national and local level. This effort has contributed to the significant progress, particularly in regard of SDG 13 on climate action. However, other environment-related SDG, especially those concerning ocean biodiversity and sustainable resource management, continue to face significant challenge. In the coming time, Vietnam significantly value the role of ESCAP and look forward to further strengthening cooperation in areas such as developing climate adaptation policies, implementing project and flood control, coastal protection and saltwater intrusion prevention, supporting emission reduction technology, building modern environment monitoring system, promoting waste separation at source, restoring forests and preserving nature and biodiversity. Vietnam believes that strengthening regional cooperations, promoting technology transfer, and providing effective financial support will be key to ensuring that no country is left behind in pursuit of sustainable development. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate from Vietnam, for your statement. The next speaker is India, to be followed by Russian Federations. Distinguished delegates from India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We take note of the reports presented to the Commission under this agenda item. India has historically sought to balance rapid economic growth with environmental stewardship, keeping people's need at the center. India remains committed to integrated, synergistic approaches that align climate ambition with sustainable development goals. Fragmented sectoral responses are no longer sufficient. Instead, we must leverage the core benefits of actions that simultaneously reduce emissions, protect nature, and enhance human well-being. India is moving beyond siloed mitigation and adaptation strategies. Our nationally determined contributions serve as a broad development roadmap integrating climate targets with the national priorities such as energy security and urban resilience. India has made significant strides in scaling up clean energy and energy efficiency. Our efforts through the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure exemplify our commitment to regional cooperation and pooling of technological capabilities to reduce transboundary climate risks. India has championed nature-based solutions. Through the large-scale initiatives in mangrove restoration and watershed management, we are securing livelihoods while enhancing carbon sequestration. We also echo the call for sustainable urban development, focusing on climate-smart urbanization that integrates green corridors and efficient public transport to combat the severe air pollution. India remains a steadfast partner in ESCAP, supporting platforms like Regional Action Program on Air Pollution to harmonize standards and share data. India remains committed to ensuring that our transition to a low emission future is just, equitable, resilient, and leaves no one behind, and to strengthen regional cooperation and partnerships in this endeavor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India, for your statement. The next speaker is Russian Federations, to be followed by China. Distinguished delegates from Russian Federations, you have the floor.
Уважаемая госпожа председатель, уважаемые делегаты, охрана окружающей среды является одним из основных направлений работы ESCAP. И несмотря на то, что универсального решения природоохранных задач не существует, мы должны стремиться к наращиванию потенциала и обмену опытом в отношении самых действенных методов реализации повестки 2030. Подобный подход будет способствовать сближению наших позиций и поиску наиболее устойчивых природоохранных решений. Природа не знает границ. Истощение ресурсов и негативные последствия ухудшения состояния окружающей среды, включая опустынивание, засуху, деградацию земель, нехватку питьевой воды и утрату биоразнообразия, приумножают и обостряют многочисленные проблемы, стоящие перед человечеством. Скоординированная реализация повестки 2030 служит одним из основных условий устойчивого развития стран и необходимым фактором преодоления ключевых вызовов современности. В целях решения поставленных задач государственная экологическая политика Российской Федерации перешла на новый проектный формат реализации. Перед Россией, как и любой другой страной, стоит задача удержать баланс между экономическим развитием и экологической ответственностью. По поручению президента Российской Федерации Владимира Путина с 2025 года в России реализуется национальный проект «Экологическое благополучие», пришедший на смену успешно завершенному в 2024 году проекту «Экология». В состав национального проекта входят 6 федеральных проектов, направленных на решение актуальных задач современной повестки в области природоохранной политики. Среди наших целей – использование вторичных ресурсов в отраслях экономики, снижение выбросов опасных загрязняющих веществ, ликвидация объектов накопленного вреда, сохранение и восстановление лесов и животных, находящихся под угрозой, оздоровление водных объектов и многое другое. Уделяем внимание развитию экотуризма. Планируется увеличение числа посетителей особо охраняемых природных территорий до 20,5 миллионов человек в год. В 2026 году Российская Федерация председательствует в ESCAP, в рамках которого запланировано проведение ряда мероприятий, направленных в том числе на достижение ЦУР. В частности, планируется тренинг ученых-орнитологов и встреча экспертов по обсуждению создания сети больших кошек в мае этого года в городе Владивосток. Российская Федерация готова к текстовому взаимодействию по всем актуальным вопросам защиты флоры и фауны, охраны атмосферы и водных ресурсов. Подобное взаимодействие должно осуществляться с опорой на общепризнанные научные данные, четкую и универсальную правовую базу, при уважении суверенитета государств над своими природными ресурсами и экономической деятельностью. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Russian Federation, for your statement. The next speaker is China, to be followed by France. Distinguished delegates from China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席。ESCAP 积极推进气候行动、生态保护、可持续城市发展、区域合作等领域的政策对话取得积极成效。当前，全球生态问题日益严峻，亚太地区国家应当加强团结合作，共建地球生命共同体，践行生态文明理念，构建人与自然和谐共生的地球家园，加快绿色低碳转型升级，厚植高质量发展的绿色底色，全面落实巴黎协定和昆明蒙特利尔生物多样性框架，构建公平合理、合作共赢的全球生态环境治理体系。绿水青山就是金山银山理念提出20年来， 中国已成为全球能耗强度降低最快、空气质量改善最明显的国家之一，建成了全球最大、最完整的新能源产业，让各国，特别是广大发展中国家用上清洁能源。2025年末，中国宣布了新一轮国家自主贡献，全面彰显了中国推动绿色低碳发展的雄心和力度。联合国可持续农业机械化中心 ESCAP 作为重要的区域合作平台，积极推动亚太地区机械化与可持续发展进程，在提升农业效率、提高粮食安全水平、降低资源消耗、改善小农生计等方面发挥了重要作用，特别在支持发展中国家能力建设、推动绿色低碳农业转型方面取得了显著成效。中方高度赞赏 ESCAP 在促进政策对话、深化技术合作和推动知识共享方面所取得的积极成果。ESCAP 通过组织项目实施、开展培训与示范，以及推进多边合作，有效促进了成员国在农业机械化领域的实践和创新能力。中方期待 ESCAP 继续发挥区域平台优势，进一步深化务实合作，特别是推动数字化与智能化技术在农业机械化中的融合与应用，为推动实现2030年可持续发展目标做出新的贡献。中方愿继续支持 ESCAP 环境与发展领域工作，支持 ESCAP 的发展，与各方一道共同推进亚太地区环境和农业高质量可持续发展。
Thank you, delegates from China, for your statement. The next speaker is France, to be followed by Bangladesh. Distinguished delegates from France, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs. La France rappelle que l'accord de Paris demeure le socle de notre engagement collectif pour contenir le réchauffement climatique et poursuivre les efforts vers 1,5 degré. Elle souligne le rôle central de la région Asie-Pacifique, qui abrite plus de 60% de la population mondiale, contribue de manière significative aux émissions globales et se trouve particulièrement exposée aux impacts du changement climatique. La France reconnaît l'importance déterminante de cette région dans la mise en œuvre de transitions ambitieuses, durables et inclusives. Elle se félicite à cet égard de l'organisation, le 8 septembre 2025, par le secrétariat de la CESAP et l'ambassade de France en Thaïlande, d'une commémoration régionale visant à célébrer l'anniversaire des 10 ans de l'accord de Paris, qui a rassemblé un large éventail d'acteurs, illustrant une mobilisation collective en faveur de l'accélération de l'action climatique. La France salue la participation active de la CESAP et de ses membres à la 3e conférence des Nations Unies sur l'océan, tenue à Nice en juin 2025. Cette conférence a marqué une étape importante pour renforcer la mobilisation internationale en faveur de la protection et de l'utilisation durable des océans, notamment à travers la mise en œuvre de l'objectif de développement durable 14 et le lancement du Blue NDC Challenge. Cette mobilisation collective doit se poursuivre et permettre l'adoption à l'Organisation maritime internationale d'un accord ambitieux pour la décarbonation du transport maritime. La France reconnaît le rôle essentiel joué par la CESAP lors de l'UNOC 3. Elle salue en particulier son travail de coordination au sein d'ONU Océan pour piloter l'élaboration du document de réflexion 8 consacré à la promotion de toutes les formes de coopération, ainsi que sa contribution au document de réflexion 7 sur les synergies entre océan, climat et biodiversité. Elle souligne également la déclaration portée par la CESAP en plénière sur l'importance des actions climatiques fondées sur l'océan, ainsi que sa participation active aux événements parallèles, notamment sur les aires marines protégées en Asie de l'Est, le mécanisme ONU-Océan et le rôle de la nature dans l'action océan-climat. La France réaffirme son plein attachement à cette dynamique et encourage la CESAP à poursuivre son engagement. À ce titre, la France met à disposition depuis 2024 un expert technique international auprès de la division environnement et développement afin de soutenir la mise en œuvre de ses priorités. Enfin, la France souhaite saluer la mise en œuvre du projet agroécologie et transition vers des systèmes alimentaires sûrs, conduit par la CESAP avec le Centre de coopération internationale en recherche agronomique pour le développement et l'Organisation des Nations Unies pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture, avec le soutien financier de la France et de l'Union européenne. Elle souligne l'importance de cette initiative pour promouvoir des systèmes alimentaires durables et se félicite des avancées réalisées, notamment l'adoption des lignes directrices de l'ASEAN et l'élaboration du plan d'action stratégique 2026-2030, facilité par la République démocratique populaire Lao. Elle salue également la création d'une plateforme régionale de connaissances et l'appui apporté à la République démocratique populaire Lao et au Vietnam pour l'élaboration de plans nationaux. Ces avancées illustrent pleinement la valeur ajoutée du multilatéralisme et de la coopération régionale pour accompagner les transitions agroécologiques. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, delegates from France, for your statement. Distinguished delegates from Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. As one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world, Bangladesh experiences impacts of climate change in ways that disproportionately affect women, children, older persons, persons with disabilities, and marginalized communities. Our current government is very much committed to protect environment and strengthen climate resilience and adopt sustainable and effective strategies to address climate change related crises and losses. Bangladesh has integrated these priorities into national planning and policy frameworks, National Adaptation Plan 2023 to 2050, a long-term country-driven roadmap to address climate risks across priority sectors with a strong focus on protecting vulnerable communities. Bangladesh has also adopted a range of short, medium, and long-term national policies and laws, including climate fiscal framework, climate change strategy, and action plan, aligned with SDGs. Bangladesh updated National Determined Contribution NDC 3.0 reflects enhanced ambition on mitigation while maintaining a strong emphasis on adaptation aligned with SDGs. We are committed to a 20.3% reduction in GHG emissions by 2035, integrating just transition principles and GEDSI measures across every sector of our economy. Bangladesh has strengthened early warning systems, cyclone preparedness, climate-resilient infrastructure, and community-based adaptation initiatives that are responsive to the needs of children, elderly persons, and vulnerable groups. Ecosystem-based approaches and environmental protection measures such as coastal afforestation, wetland conservation, biodiversity protection enhance resilience while supporting sustainable livelihoods. Madam Chair, Bangladesh pursuing a just and inclusive transition toward a low carbon and resource efficient economy, prioritizes renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transport, and cleaner production, while safeguarding jobs, livelihoods, and access to affordable energy. Also focuses on green growth, sustaining development gains, and ensuring dignity and opportunity for present and future generations. Protecting biodiversity from Sundarbans to our wetlands, we preserve the heritage of our ancestors for the benefit of our children. Bangladesh underscores the importance of adequate, predictable, and accessible climate finance, particularly for adaptation, alongside enhanced access to climate technologies, innovation, and capacity building support. We remain committed to working with ESCAP and all member states to advance environmental protection, inclusive growth, and climate resilience in Asia and the Pacific. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, delegates from Bangladesh, for your statement. Would any other delegation like to take the floor under this agenda item? I see none. We shall now take up agenda item 5D pertaining to the disaster risk reductions. May I invite the Acting Director of the Information and Communication Technology and Disaster Risk Reductions Divisions, Mr. Keon Kaur, to briefly introduce the document pertaining to this agenda item. Mr. Kaur, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor to introduce the document pertinent to item number 5D on disaster risk reduction. ESCAP /82/13, strengthening regional cooperation to better prepare for disasters linked to rising heat by scaling up the use of science, technology, and innovation in the framework of early warnings for all initiative. Document ESCAP /82/13 on strengthening regional cooperation to better prepare for disaster linked to rising heat by scaling up the use of science, technology, and innovation in the framework of the Early Warning for All initiative applies a heat lens to the Early Warning for All value chain. The first, it reviews the changing disaster risk landscape by identifying heat risk hotspots that are either emerging or intensifying and interacting with other hazards. Even within a constantly evolving risk landscape, extreme heat stands out as a distinct challenge. Prolonged heat waves now routinely affect tens of millions of people, and hazardous heat conditions are projected to become chronic or even constant in some locations under high emission climate scenarios. To support this and to further implement the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Application for Sustainable Development, supported by voluntary contributions from member states and the United Nations Regular Program of Technical Cooperation. The Secretariat trained 715 professionals across Central, South, and Southeast Asia in 2025 alone to strengthen their ability to access, interpret, and apply satellite data, transforming it into clear risk maps, real-time monitoring, and early warning. Second, it identifies persistence gaps in early warning systems, especially in terms of preparedness across all 4 pillars, and examine how science and technology and innovation with a range of secretarial support services are being used to strengthen early warning systems. Third, it identifies priority areas where regional and sub-regional cooperation can accelerate progress toward universal, inclusive, and heat-responsive early warning systems. In this regard, the Commission is requested to provide guidance to the Secretariat on strengthening regional cooperation for disaster preparedness by scaling up the use of science, technology, and innovation in support of the Global Executive Action Plan on Early Warning for All 2023 to 2027, and the Secretary General's call to action on extreme heat. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ko. May I now ask the conference room officer to play the video message from the Vice Chair of the 9th sessions of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reductions, Mr. Barasi Botolanga, Chief Executive Officer of the National Emergency Service of Nauru.
Honorable Chair, Excellency, distinguished delegates, I have the honor to address the Commission in my capacity as the Vice Chair of the 9th session of the Committee of Disaster Risk Reduction. The committee discussion were clear across Asia and the Pacific. We are not short of strategy, framework, or knowledge of risk. However, what we are short on and not seeing those plans, strategy, and framework being translated into action on the ground. The committee highlighted an increasing complex and compounding risk landscape from extreme heat to cascading multi-asset, risks affecting water, flood system, infrastructure, and livelihood. In this context, there was strong consensus of the need to translate risk knowledge in operational action through stronger regional cooperation, data sharing, and interoperable system. That is why the committee placed a strong emphasis on regional coordination and partner alignment. In the Pacific, we are not connected by borders, but by our shared ocean and shared risk. The Boy Declaration on Regional Security endorsed in Nauru recognized the disaster and climate change as a core security challenge and require collective action. Our key message from the committee is that preparedness must be costed, financed, and implementable. Too often, countries are supported to develop plans, but not funded or operationalize them. That is require a shift towards sustained financing for preparedness and stronger integration of disaster risk financing into public financial management system. Excellency, at this time when global cooperation is being tested, this region has the opportunity to lead, to demonstrate that collective action remains not only possible but essential. The 2030 Agenda reflects our shared commitment to act together to ensure that no country, no matter how small, is left behind. If we are to meet our 2030 Agenda, we must move beyond intention and execution, ensuring that preparedness is funded, coordinated, and works in practice for those most at risk. For a country like ours, this is not optional, it's essential. Tabaka, thank you.
Thank you. May I also ask the conference room officer to play the video message from Dr. Krishna Savarup Vatsa, member and head of Department of the National Disaster Management Authority of India, on behalf of the chair of the 10th sessions of the Governing Council of the ASEAN and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I am pleased to present the outcomes of the 10th session of the Governing Council of APDIM, which was held in New Delhi on 21 November 2025. The following decisions adopted by the Governing Council of the Asian and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management are brought to the attention of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Decision 1. The Governing Council took note of the report by the Secretariat on the activities of the Asian and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management since its 9th session, endorsed the program of work of the Center for 2026 and invited the Center to include in its program of work a multi-hazard focus, a strengthened transboundary cooperation, and learning and knowledge sharing for its member states. The program of work could include initiatives on earthquakes, forest fires, and floods, supported through annual specialized events and related activities. Decision 2. The Governing Council took note of the addendum to the multi-year strategic program of work for the period 2021-2030 of the Asian and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management and the draft 5-year strategic framework for the period 2026-2030, both of which were informed by the independent evaluation carried out in 2024 and a multi-stakeholder consultation conducted in 2025. Members of the Governing Council emphasize the value of an ongoing assessment of the Center's activities as foreseen in the addendum, as priorities could evolve during the period 2026-2030. Decision 3. The Governing Council took note of the report by the Secretariat on the administrative and financial status of the Asian and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management. The Governing Council acknowledged with appreciation the commitment of and the valuable financial and in-kind contributions made to date by the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the host country of the center, expresses appreciation to the host government for the most recent contribution and encourages the timely disbursement of outstanding contributions. The Governing Council also invites members and associate members of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific to mobilize financial and in-kind support for the center and take an active role in the implementation of the center's program of work. Decision 4. The Governing Council elected the following officers. Chair, Mr. Nityanand Rai, India. Vice Chair, Ms. Safinaz Hussain, Maldives. I encourage all members and associate members of ESCAP to support the important work of APDIM. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I now open the floor for a statement. I ask all speakers to adhere to the time limit of 3 minutes. The first speaker is Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, and distinguished delegates. As many of you know, the Asia-Pacific region is rapidly urbanizing and is one of the most disaster-prone areas in the world. Earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, typhoons, and rising sea levels frequently disrupt our lives and economies, making it clear that we need cities that can adapt to and recover from these challenges. Achieving this level of resilience requires us to work together. And Japan offers an example of how regional cooperation can make a difference. After the earthquake in Myanmar in 2025, Japan quickly sent disaster risk reduction and infrastructure experts to help. In partnership with the World Bank, Japan also hosted a session called Building Trust Through Rapid Post-Earthquake Assessments, where experts from the region share the best practices. In such times, Japanese specialists collaborate with other government officials to help address issues related to inspecting damaged infrastructure and improving hazard management systems. In the wake of flood outbreaks in Thailand, for example, in 2011, Japan stepped up by providing necessary tools such as high-capacity drainage pump vehicles and offering grants through the Asian Development Bank to help develop community-based flood risk management plans. These actions are just a few examples of how Japan supports its neighbors in times of need. Disaster risk reduction has long been a cornerstone of Japan's collaboration with UN ESCAP. For example, we have recently supported development of guidelines that consider gender and disabilities in disaster risk reduction. Japan also hosts the Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific, SIAP, which provides essential training and technical assistance, including methodologies for compiling disaster-related statistics to inform decision-making. In October 2024, Japan co-organized the 4th International Forum on Low-Carbon Cities in Kitakyushu with ESCAP. This forum showcased transformative solutions for sustainable cities, highlighting innovative technologies and fostering partnership to boost urban resilience. Japan has promoted public-private partnership, including with ASEAN countries, with a view to promoting early warnings for all. These efforts show how collaboration and innovation can tackle challenges like climate change and disaster risk reduction. Resilient cities are the backbone of sustainable development, thriving economies, and safe and secure communities. By working together and learning from each other, we can build an Asia-Pacific where cities not only overcome challenges, but also flourish, allowing people to prosper. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Japan. The next speaker is Islamic Republic of Iran, to be followed by Thailand. Distinguished delegates from Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues. I want to take note of the report of the Governing Council of the Asia Pacific Center for Development of Information Disaster Management, otherwise known as APTIM, submitted under this agenda item. We consider the Center's role in today's world to be increasingly vital. As climate-related events intensify, the need for accurate data, early warning systems, and coordinated risk reduction strategies is becoming greater by the day. APTIM's efforts to improve disaster information management APTIM efforts to improve disaster information management, strengthen regional data sharing, and enhance capacity building across Asia and Pacific contributes directly to the resilience and safety of our societies. It has been highlighted by the esteemed Governing Council. APTIM's work has also covered beyond the Asia-Pacific region and included joint cooperation with ESCAP, the sister commission for ESCAP for West Asia and North Africa, in efforts to mitigate the root causes of sand and dust storms and contribute to the United Nations Coalition for Combating SDSs. However, from the end of February, we have seen a stark subsidence in the work of the Center. Notwithstanding the ongoing crisis, the government of Iran reiterates its support to the uninterrupted continuation of the work of the APTIM and pledges its readiness and full assistance to the Center to resume its program plan and offering its services to the countries of the Asia-Pacific region. After all, effective disaster management consists of formulating plans to rise up to the occasion despite the crisis on the background. At least, this is what we teach in our workshops. And every once in a while, for every teacher or instructor, there comes a time when we are tested with the same thing we teach to others. This may look like a challenge from the outside, but if successfully passed, it would be the most effective lesson that every institution can offer, which is concrete and referable example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iran. The next speaker is Thailand, to be followed by India. Distinguished delegates from Thailand, you have the floor.
Excellency Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, although disasters have continuously affected people's well-being and economic activities, Thailand emphasizes on and aims for building a resilient society. To strengthen national resilience, Thailand has been implementing the National Disaster Prevention Mitigation Plan 2021 to 2027 to translate action from the national to local level. Our community-based disaster risk management (CDM) approach enhances disaster knowledge and ensures everyone is well risk-informed. Thailand is also supporting robust community network among household, temples, schools, through regular preparedness, training, and exercise at all levels. And communities are empowered to prepare for and respond to disaster effectively before external assistance arrives. Thailand has also strengthened proactive disaster risk management by enhancing a multi-hazard early warning system across multiple channels. The National Early Warning System called T-Alert was launched on 22nd September 2025, which reflects strong public-private collaboration. It operates under SOP to deliver clear and concise alert via the self-broadcast system. In addition, Thailand is developing digital television broadcasting network to increase public accessibility. We realize the importance of the understanding risks at local level. Thus, anticipatory action and strengthening risk communication are prioritized through impact-based forecasting. This supports authorities in planning loss and damage reduction measures and promotes informed evacuation decisions. Finally, effective disaster risk management in an increasingly complex environment requires comprehensive, disaggregated, and regularly updated data to better understand impact on vulnerable groups and critical infrastructure. While challenges remain in collecting such data at local level, Thailand continues to seek additional technical support to strengthen disaster-related statistics. In parallel, Thailand is working to develop comprehensive risk map and worst-case scenarios for each hazard. Our efforts would enhance evidence-based decision-making and ensure no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thailand. The next speaker is India, to be followed by Indonesia. Distinguished delegates from India, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, disaster risk reduction has been accorded utmost priority in India. Government of India has worked tirelessly to improve access to early warning system for the 1.4 billion people in the country. Landmark changes have also been brought in our financing architecture to support the entire spectrum of disaster risk management, including mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and reconstruction. Through Mission Mosam, India has advanced its meteorological capacity and disaster preparedness systems, enhanced high-performance computing capacity, is enabling high-resolution forecasting models such as the Bharat Forecasting System at 6 km resolution. The India Meteorological Department has expanded its observation network and improved forecast accuracy. Heat wave forecasts are now issued in India with up to 7 days lead time. India has adopted impact-based forecasting moving beyond generic weather alerts. Heat action plans are used to coordinate impacts on multiple sectors, including health, labor, agriculture, and energy to reduce risks to vulnerable populations. Dissemination systems have been strengthened through the Common Alerting Protocol and mobile applications ensuring last mile connectivity. Increasing impact of urban heat island effects in major cities with additional warming of 2 to 7 degrees Celsius are disproportionately affecting vulnerable communities. Efforts are underway to use AI and satellite-based tools for urban heat mapping and impact-based outlooks. Since its inception in 2005, in the aftermath of the 2004 tsunami, the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund for Tsunami Disaster and Climate Preparedness has demonstrated enduring regional commitment to enhance access to multi-hazard early warning systems. As a result, countries in the region have directly benefited through building regional and national end-to-end warning systems. India has made significant co-financing and technical contributions as well as in-kind support to the activities, and last year to support ESCAP's effort to scale up DRR activities in the region. India remains committed to sharing its experiences, early warning systems, and satellite-based monitoring capabilities, contributing to regional capacity building initiatives. India looks forward to continued collaboration to ensure inclusive and effective disaster risk reduction across the region. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. The next speaker is Indonesia, to be followed by Bangladesh. Distinguished delegates from Indonesia, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Indonesia commends the successful outcome of the 9th session of the Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction held in November 2025. As the largest archipelagic country highly exposed to natural disasters, disaster risk reduction remains a national priority for Indonesia. Therefore, strengthened regional cooperation is a sine qua non for a resilient and sustainable community. While we appreciate the committee's focus on the growing risks associated with intensifying heat, Indonesia wishes to underscore that risk profiles and even definitions of risk vary significantly across regions. As a tropical country located near the equator, Indonesia does not experience heat waves in the same way as countries in temperate or subtropical regions. Instead, our approach is grounded in identifying extreme weather as abnormal climatic conditions that pose threats to lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure. In this context, Indonesia utilizes temperature anomalies as an early indicator for heightened vigilance. This context-specific approach has proven effective in reducing potential loss of lives. At the same time, disaster risk in our region is increasingly shaped by the nexus between food security, energy systems, and climate-related hazards. In Indonesia, more frequent extreme weather events and hydrometeorological disasters have direct implications on agricultural production, irrigation, and rural livelihoods, while also disrupting energy infrastructure and supply. Building on our water, energy, food nexus approach under the environment and energy agenda items, Indonesia is integrating risk considerations into planning for food systems and power systems, including through climate-resilient irrigation, diversified livelihoods, and more decentralized, renewable-based energy solutions that can better withstand shocks. This nexus perspective helps us identify cascading risks early and design responses that protect lives and livelihoods, reduce losses across sectors, and support a more resilient and sustainable development pathway. In this regard, Indonesia welcomes the committee's decision to integrate heat risk reduction into regional early warning strategies. We also support the strengthening of key regional mechanisms into the Risk and Resilience Portal and the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund. Furthermore, Indonesia appreciates ongoing collaborative initiatives under ESCAP, including partnerships with China and the Philippines and Thailand on SatGPT, an AI-powered tool to map inundation hotspots. Such innovation demonstrates the value of regional cooperation in harnessing technology for disaster preparedness. Madam Chair, Indonesia reaffirms its commitment to working closely with all partners to ensure that early warning systems in Asia and the Pacific are not only technically robust, but also inclusive, accessible, and ultimately life-saving. Indonesia stands ready to continue sharing its experiences as well as to learn from others as we collectively strengthen resilience across our region. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Indonesia. Distinguished delegates from Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Bangladesh attaches the highest importance to this agenda in line with the theme Leaving None Behind, advancing a society for all ages in Asia and Pacific. Bangladesh remains one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. Nearly 70% of our landmass is exposed to natural hazards, including cyclones, floods, and river erosion. Climate change is intensifying these risks, particularly in our coastal regions. Yet, Bangladesh stands today as a strong example how vulnerability can be transformed into resilience. Over the past decades, we have made significant progress. In 2015, 12,881 people were affected per 100,000 population. By 2021, this number was reduced to 3,766. By 2030, our target is 1,500. These are not just numbers, they are lives saved and communities protected. This progress is driven by investments in early warning systems, community preparedness, and inclusive evacuation strategies. Today, over 13 million people in coastal areas are covered by early warning systems, including SMS and voice-based technologies. Bangladesh has aligned its national frameworks with the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. Our national plan for disaster management prioritizes women, children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities while advancing SDG 1, SDG 11, and SDG 13. Excellencies, despite this progress, challenges remain. Only 8.3% of city corporations and 0.99% of municipalities have fully implemented disaster risk reduction plans. Resilience must reach every community, every household, and every person. Financing remains a critical constraint. We need predictable, accessible, and adequate financing to scale up resilience and adaptation, especially for countries on the front lines. Distinguished delegates, regional cooperation is essential. We must strengthen data sharing, technology transfer, and cross-border early warning systems. Bangladesh remains committed to building a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable society for all ages. Together, let us build a future where resilience is universal so that no one is left behind. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bangladesh, for your statement. Would any other delegation like to take the floor under this agenda item? I see none. We shall now take up agenda sub-item 5E on energy. May I invite the Director of the Energy Divisions, Mr. Hon Peng Liu, to briefly introduce the document pertaining to this agenda item. Mr. Liu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce the document on the agenda item 5E on energy. First, document ESCAP/CE4/9, report of the Committee on Energy on its fourth session, is submitted for the consideration of the Commission. The report was adopted at the fourth session of the Committee on Energy, held in Bangkok from 3rd to 5th September 2025, and will be introduced by the chair of the committee. Second, document ESCAP/82/14, entitled Accelerating Progress in Achieving Sustainable Development Goal 7 and Just Energy Transition in Asia and Pacific, reviews progress towards SDG 7 across the region. While advances have been made, the document highlights persistent and uneven progress among countries and subregions. The report draws lessons from support to member states from the development of national SDG 7 roadmaps and emphasizes the importance of integrated, context-specific energy planning. It also examines the potential of regional energy connectivity to support secure, affordable, and sustainable energy systems, including through enhanced cross-border cooperation. In addition, the document addresses issues related to supply chains for critical minerals essential to the energy transition, with attention to sustainability, resilience, and inclusiveness. The Commission is invited to take note of this document and to provide guidance to the Secretariat on how it may further support Member States in achieving SDG 7 target and accelerating just and inclusive energy transitions in Asia and Pacific. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. May I ask the conference room officer to play the video message from the chair of the fourth sessions of the Committee of Energy, Her Excellency Ms. Elena Akinaga, Secretary of the Department of Resources and Development of the Federal State of Micronesia.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to report on the outcomes of the fourth session of the Committee on Energy, which was organized from September 3 to the 5th in Bangkok, Thailand. Reflecting on our time together, I would like to emphasize the productive discussions that define the session, allowing us to address complex energy challenges with creativity and shared purposes. The committee's deliberation focused on critical pathways for just and inclusive energy transitions. We reviewed progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 7, acknowledging both important achievements on universal access combined with persistent gaps in access to clean cooking and limited improvements in energy efficiency and the way forward to scale up renewable energy. Member states noted the importance of cross-border power integration, as well as enhanced cross-border cooperation, regulatory alignment, and shared technical learning for enabling just and inclusive energy transitions while strengthening energy security and resilience. The committee requested the development of new and feasible milestone for the regional roadmap on power system connectivity through 2035 to be presented to the member states for their consideration at the Asian and Pacific Energy Forum in 2027. The committee also emphasized emerging areas such as the need to ensure that supply chains for minerals, materials, and technologies critical for energy transitions are sustainable and resilient, and the importance of meaningful youth engagement to ensure energy transitions are inclusive across generations. I submit these outcomes to the Commission, confident that the spirit of cooperation fostered during the committee session will guide our continued efforts toward a sustainable energy future. Thank you.
Thank you. I now open the floor for a statement. I ask all speakers to adhere to the time limit of 3 minutes. The first speaker is Azerbaijan. Distinguished delegates from Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Azerbaijan is actively advancing the green energy transition, positioning itself as a key driver of sustainable energy development in our region. Our approach combines the expansion of renewable energy capacity with the development of cross-border transmission corridors. By 2027, the 9 solar and 2 wind power plants will be integrated into our national grid. As a result, the share of renewable installed capacity is expected to reach 38% by 2030 and 42.5% by 2035. Looking further ahead, Azerbaijan plans to develop close to 8 gigawatts of onshore and offshore renewable energy capacity by 2032. At the same time, Azerbaijan is investing in major green energy interconnectors. 4 key corridors initiatives are currently under development. This include Caspian Black Sea Europe Green Energy Corridor, the Caspian Sea Central Asia Azerbaijan Energy Corridor, and the Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Corridor through Nakhchivan, and the Azerbaijan-Georgia-Turkey-Bulgaria Green Energy Corridors. These projects will not only transmit clean electricity, but are also designed to carry out digital data through fiber optic infrastructure and, in the future, green hydrogen. Distinguished delegates, the successful hosting of COP29 in Baku marked as a historic milestone, further strengthening Azerbaijan's role as a country committed to green growth and sustainable energy. Under the leadership of President Aliyev, Azerbaijan is developing green energy zones in Karabakh, Eastern Zangezur, and Nakhchivan region. To date, more than 1,500 residential and public buildings in Karabakh and Eastern Zangezur have been equipped with rooftop solar panels. Renewable energy projects in these regions will generate approximately 1.6 gigawatts, twice the local consumption, while reducing emissions by around 2 million tons. In parallel, Nakhchivan is being developed as a major green energy hub with a significant renewable potential. Excellencies, Azerbaijan's vision is to transform the Caspian region into a modern and reliable global energy hub, balancing traditional energy resources with a rapidly growing renewable capacity. We remain committed to strengthening cooperation with governments, international organizations, and private investors. We firmly believe that the future of energy in our region rests on following key pillars: sustainable and secure energy supply, economic diversification, environmental protection across Central Asia, the South Caucasus, and Caspian region. I thank you all.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. The next speaker is Thailand, to be followed by India. Distinguished delegate from Thailand, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Thailand would like to express our appreciation to the Secretariat for the comprehensive report on accelerating progress toward SDG 7 and ensuring just energy transitions within the Asia-Pacific region. In this regard, I would like to reaffirm that Thailand remains fully committed to the 2030 Agenda. We recognized that sustainable energy transition must be inclusive and equitable to reflect the unique circumstances of each member state. In alignment with this commitment, Thailand was honored to host the fourth session of Committee on Energy in Bangkok in September 2025, as we recognize the significant role of the UN ESCAP in building a secure, sustainable, and interconnected energy future. Moreover, we appreciate the committee's efforts in various progressive works to achieve SDG 7 goal, including the implementation of regional roadmap on power system connectivity and the engagement of young generation. During this important meeting, Thailand emphasized several key strategies to advance SDG 7. First, we supported a balanced energy transition policy that advanced energy security, economic growth, and emissions reduction. Furthermore, Thailand highlighted the importance of energy efficiency as a key measure to support sustainable energy future. We also recognize the necessity of diverse pathways toward cleaner energy and ensuring adequate finance for various transition approaches. In terms of our national implementation, we are actively scaling up renewable energy capacity while recognizing natural gas as transition fuel to ensure a stable and affordable energy supply. We also focus on reducing the overall energy intensity by promoting Beauty Energy Code and Label Number 5 program for home devices and energy-efficient machines. Furthermore, we continue to promote electrification and biofuel to further decarbonize our transport sector. Additionally, we enhancing digitalization and demand-side management. We have established the Renewable Energy Forecast Center and a Demand Response Control Center to enhance renewable integration and strengthen system flexibility. Looking forward, Thailand supports the Secretariat's mandate to develop new milestones for the regional roadmap on power system connectivity for the period leading to 2035 and reaffirm its dedication to the preparations of the 4th Asian Pacific Energy Forum to be held in 2027. Thailand stands ready to work collaboratively with all member states to ensure a secure, affordable, and sustainable energy future for the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thailand. The next speaker is India, to be followed by Bangladesh. Distinguished delegates from India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India takes note of the report submitted under this agenda item. India aligns with the objective of accelerating progress in achieving Sustainable Development Goal 7 and advancing just energy transitions while addressing gaps in access to affordable capital, technology transfer, capacity building, and international cooperation. India has made significant progress in expanding non-fossil fuel capacity. As of February 2026, out of the total installed capacity of 523.99 gigawatt, around 53% is from non-fossil fuel sources. Renewable energy capacity stands at 266.67 gigawatt, accounting for 50.89% of our total capacity. India achieved the target of 50% cumulative installed capacity from non-fossil fuel sources in June 2025, more than 5 years ahead of the 2030 commitment. India is working towards achieving 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel energy capacity by 2030. Solar capacity has grown more than 50 times, while wind capacity has increased 2.5 times since March 2014. India has reduced emissions intensity of GDP significantly, precisely by 36% between 2005 and 2020, and is committed to reducing it by 47% by 2035. We also aim to increase the annual rate of energy efficiency improvement by 2030. Energy efficiency measures are being implemented across various sectors. There are dedicated programs also to support deployment of energy efficient technologies for the energy intensive MSME sectors. India has mandated fuel efficiency policy to steer original equipment manufacturers of vehicle towards producing more fuel efficient and lower emitting vehicles, the norms have resulted in significant energy savings in India. India is also advancing carbon capture utilization and storage technologies. This reflects India's approach to achieving SDG 7 while supporting a low carbon development pathway. We believe that a just transition extends far beyond energy sector, and it's an economy-wide inclusive transformation and must respect national circumstances, ensure equity and social justice. From the Global South point of view, affordable and adequate access to finance, technology, and capacity building aligned with national circumstances is vital to ensure that no one is left behind. We look forward to continuing our engagements with ESCAP in this context. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. The next speaker is Bangladesh, to be followed by Russian Federations. Distinguished delegates from Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Energy remains central to Bangladesh's development trajectory. Sustained economic growth, rapid urbanization, and industrial expansion continue to drive rising energy demand. Ensuring energy security, affordability, and sustainability, therefore, remain a key national priority. Bangladesh has made significant progress in expanding electricity access, reaching near universal coverage, while increasing generation capacity to over 32,000 megawatt and strengthening transmission and distribution networks. Regional cooperation, including cross-border electricity trade and hydropower imports, continues to contribute to energy security. Madam Chair, Bangladesh is pursuing a diversified energy pathway. Natural gas remains a major component of our energy mix, complemented by LNG and ongoing efforts to expand domestic and offshore exploration. The development of a nuclear power plant with a capacity of 2,400 megawatt marks a major milestone in enhancing reliable and stable baseload power generation. Bangladesh remains committed to a just and sustainable energy transition. Efforts are underway to advance renewable energy through solar, wind, biogas, and waste-to-energy initiatives, while promoting energy efficiency and cleaner technologies. Bangladesh's current climate policy framework targets renewable energy at 25% of total electricity demand by 2035, alongside major efficiency gains and expanded rooftop solar deployment. Bangladesh firmly believes that energy transition must be just, inclusive, and responsive to national circumstances, ensuring that development priorities and climate goals advance together. Distinguished delegates, despite these efforts, challenges remain. The share of renewable energy is still limited, while financing gaps, technology constraints, and infrastructure requirements continue to affect the pace of transition. Addressing these challenges requires strengthened international support and regional cooperation. For developing countries, the pathway to sustainable energy must balance affordability, reliability, and sustainability while ensuring equitable access to technology and finance. Madam Chair, Bangladesh calls upon ESCAP member states to enhance collaboration in sustainable energy financing, technology transfer, capacity building, and energy efficiency. ESCAP can play a critical role in facilitating regional platforms for knowledge exchange, innovation, and resource mobilization. Bangladesh reaffirms its commitment to achieving SDG 7 and stands ready to work with all partners to build a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable energy future for the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Our next speaker is Russian Federations, to be followed by Turkmenistan. Distinguished delegates from Russian Federations, you have the floor.
Благодарю вас, уважаемая госпожа председатель, уважаемые участники сессии. Сотрудничество с ESCAP в области энергетики традиционно относится к числу наших приоритетов. Именно Азиатско-Тихоокеанский регион сейчас формирует основной спрос на энергоносители, а от успешного решения задачи по обеспечению всеобщего доступа к недорогим, надежным, устойчивым и современным источникам энергии зависит и успех выполнения многих других целей устойчивого развития. Отмечаем полезный опыт проведения совместных мероприятий с секретариатом комиссии. Так, в августе 2025 года на территории Камчатского края Российской Федерации состоялся диалог ESCAP по политике в области устойчивого энергетического развития. Проведение диалога показало, что подобный формат открытого экспертного разговора активно способствует углублению понимания и сближению позиций по важным вопросам энергетики в регионе, помогает наладить обмен опытом и лучшими практиками, а также способствует развитию деловых связей. Готовы расширять практику проведения подобных мероприятий. Большое значение придаем сотрудничеству с ESCAP через реализацию проектов в области технического содействия в области энергетики. Среди проектов текущего цикла инициативы, направленные на укрепление роли молодежи в энергопереходе, развитие субрегионального сотрудничества в вопросах устойчивой энергетики, анализ роли природного газа в энергопереходе, а также поддержка деятельности секретариата на энергетическом треке. Уделяем большое внимание задачам обеспечения низкоэмиссионного развития Российской Федерации. Приведу в этом контексте один показательный пример. Расположенная на Дальнем Востоке России Сахалинская область стала в прошлом году первым российским регионом, достигшим углеродной нейтральности. Это стало возможным в том числе благодаря качественной модернизации транспортной инфраструктуры, расширению газификации, активному применению энергосберегающих технологий в промышленности, внедрению механизмов комплексного углеродного регулирования с квотированием выбросов. При этом валовый региональный продукт на протяжении всего сахалинского эксперимента демонстрировал устойчивый рост, что на практике доказывает, что принципы устойчивого развития отлично могут сочетаться с задачами по обеспечению экономического роста. Готовы делиться наработанным опытом со всеми заинтересованными сторонами. Уважаемые участники сессии, уникальная позиция Российской Федерации, которая является одновременно крупным производителем, потребителем и экспортером энергетических ресурсов, а также одним из мировых лидеров в области энергетики, открывает широкие возможности для налаживания сотрудничества со странами-членами ESCAP. Готовы расширять и углублять наше взаимодействие на энергетическом треке, реализовывать новые инициативы и вносить существенный вклад в решение стоящих перед регионом задач в области устойчивой энергетики. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Russian Federation. We have now reached an end of the allotted time for this meeting. We still have some delegations that requested to speak under this agenda item. To enable in the permitting a member state to take the floor, the interpreters will remain on duty for an additional 10 minutes. The next speaker is Turkmenistan, to be followed by Tajikistan. Distinguished delegates from Turkmenistan, you have the floor.
Уважаемая госпожа председатель, уважаемые члены делегации, дамы и господа, позвольте выразить искреннюю признательность ESCAP за приглашение принять участие на 83-й сессии комиссии. Прежде всего, хотел бы отметить актуальность темы энергетики нынешнего заседания, посвященного поиску возможностей и решений для устойчивого будущего и достижения цели устойчивого развития повестки дня 2030. Огромные запасы углеводородных ресурсов позволили сформировать в Туркменистане крупный топливно-энергетический комплекс, который является важнейшим звеном развития экономики страны. На его долю в структуре промышленного производства приходится от 40 до 60%. Государственная энергетическая политика Туркменистана направлена на бесперебойное и надежное электро- и газоснабжение реального и социального секторов. Расширение экспортного потенциала не только сырьевых ресурсов, но и глубокой переработки, повышение энергетической безопасности. Все электростанции, входящие в государственную электрораспределительную систему, работают на собственном природном газе, который характеризуется наименее отрицательным воздействием на окружающую среду по сравнению с другими видами углеводородных топлив. Несмотря на богатый запас ископаемого топлива в условиях усиливающихся глобальных климатических угроз, приоритетной задачей для обеспечения устойчивости будущего является приверженность страны низкоуглеводородному развитию. Это во многом достигается за счет внедрения зеленых технологий, совершенствования процесса производства и потребления энергии, коренной реконструкции и модернизации производственных мощностей, широком применении энергосберегающих технологий, развитии альтернативных источников энергии. Наряду с этим значительные инвестиции сделаны в обновление энергосистемы страны, что способствовало повышению энергоэффективности и снижению потерь в электросетях. Возобновляемые источники энергии, такие как солнце, ветер, гидроэнергия, геотермальная энергия и биомасса, являются устойчивыми и практически не выделяет парниковых газов и загрязняющих веществ в атмосферу. Туркменистан, где ежегодно бывает более 300 солнечных дней в году, имеет уникальную возможность для использования потенциала солнечной энергии в борьбе с изменением климата. В настоящее время завершено строительство многопрофильной солнечной ветряной электростанции мощностью 10 мегаватт на западе Туркменистана. Также предусмотрено строительство еще одной солнечной электростанции мощностью 100 мегаватт. Еще одним актуальным направлением развития альтернативных источников энергии в Туркменистане выступает водородная энергетика, которая обладает высокой энергоэффективностью и экологическими преимуществами. В дальнейшем будут продолжены мероприятия по повышению энергоэффективности за счет модернизации промышленности, внедрения инновационных технологий, взаимодействия науки и производства, введения стимулирующих методов тарифообразования, развития альтернативных источников энергии. В заключение хотел подчеркнуть, что Туркменистан готов к самому активному, конструктивному и деятельному участию в многостороннем сотрудничестве по всем актуальным вопросам глобальной повестки в области устойчивого развития и создавая устойчивую структуру для стабильного будущего. Доклад окончен. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Turkmenistan. Distinguished delegates from Tajikistan, you have the floor.
Dear Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to speak on behalf of Tajikistan about energy sector within the framework of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I have to mention that Tajikistan generates more than 98% of its electricity from hydropower, which position us as one of the leaders in the field of clean energy. However, our vision goes beyond national progress. We are committed to regional energy cooperation as path to shared prosperity. The CASAT 1000 initiative is a key example. This transformative project connects Central Asia with South Asia, allowing Tajikistan to export surplus clean electricity to neighboring countries. For neighboring countries, CASA 1000 represents not only access to the reliable electricity, but also an opportunity for economic development, infrastructure growth, and regional integration. It also helps them solve the problem of significant energy shortage, supporting industry stability and sustainable growth. This project is more than just energy transfer. It's a bridge cooperation, trust, and mutual benefit between our regions. However, continuous cooperation, security, and investment are needed to realize its full potential. Tajikistan is always committed to work closely with all countries and partners to ensure success of CASA 1000 project and promote sustainable energy for all. In conclusion, by strengthening regional partnership, we can turn energy into a driving force for peace, stability, and joint development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tajikistan. Thank you, interpreters. We have now reached the end of the allotted time for this meeting. I would therefore need to close the list of speakers for this item. This concludes our discussions under agenda sub-item 5E. May I call on the Secretary of the Commissions to make an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and very good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I'd like to just talk about the side events to remind delegations that today we are also organizing several side events hosted by member states and other partners. They are shown on the screen and are listed also on the Commission website. All distinguished delegations are encouraged to take part in that. And with that, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretary of the Commissions. We will now break and reconvene this afternoon promptly at 14 hours to pursue discussions under agenda sub-item 5. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.